Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the MHA What If with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Deku Became a Symbol of Unity? All credits for this video go to their respective authors, so please support the real author. Check out the link in the description for more details. Please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Today is not just another day of Midoriya Izuku's life. If someone comes to him and says his favorite hero will come and save him, he would probably tell them it's just a wishful thinking, while silently hoping it to be true. He never expected to have his dream crushed by the hero though. He let dirty shoes and bruised feet take him home, with eyes stuck on the pavement and mind still racing about today's event. He had saved someone today, even though that someone had yelled at him and wouldn't admit it. Even though everyone said it was foolish and reckless. That's okay. It was the closure he needed. He felt something wet on his cheek. Izuku. Looking up, he saw his mother bawling her eyes out. He had arrived at home. I'm so worried. I saw Katsuki on the news and I thought I saw your hair poking out. Why are you so dirty? Are you hurt? Did that villain hurt you too? I'm so worried I can't take it, Izuku. He managed to give her a smile, and tried to ease her worry while also reminding her about the neighbor under them that got leaks because of her tears. Her mother's words brought him back to his thoughts, to All Might's advice and Kaken's taunt from before. He made his decision. Mom, I'm giving up on becoming a hero. Izuku later found out that finding a new dream can be as hard as giving up on one. His Boogle history must be full right now, yet he still hadn't made a decision. Of course, he already eliminated jobs that aren't possible for someone quirkless. Jobs like medic, police officer. Funny, he thought All Might scold him to dream the attainable and suggest him to join the police, and firefighters are out, since they require quirk control certification, leaving no chance for the ones who have no quirk to begin with. Office jobs, law practice, and entertainment industry have insanely high discrimination rate against quirkless individuals, so they're out too. Teacher? Students who saw their teacher beneath them wouldn't hear anything their teacher says, said a retired quirkless teacher in a forum. And of course, the hero industry is out. There is no quirkless hero recorded, and he was not sure that hero support will be different. There is only one quirkless individual who made a big name despite of her situation, and that is mainly because her father worked with All Might. No matter how promising she is, every media pictures her as a pity case. To be honest, Izuku had already cried more than 6 times in the passing hour. Then he found out that quirkless people are also having difficulty to get a part-time job. Don't fall tears. Don't if too late. A knocking sound interrupted him and a glass of milk was put on his desk by his mother. His only joy. Thank you, Mum. Don't be too hard on yourself, dear. I'm sure you'll think of something. He laughed out of his tiredness. I tried, Mom. You know I always love to compile data and analyze it. Well, according to the data, I have no future. He cupped his face. I can't believe it. I was so delusional before. No wonder everyone got sick of me. There were definitely no tears. Inko only looked at her son guiltily. It was her fault after all. It was her that kept feeding him with hero toys. It was her fault that her son is quirkless. So she apologized again and again, not realizing how her son's shoulder had stiffened. It's okay, Mom. It's not your fault. Then whose fault is it? He wanted to sleep, really. But sleep just hadn't come to him and he was tired. His mind felt empty yet full, and everything felt numb. He had stared the ceiling for an hour, accompanied by his mother's quiet sob from behind the wall. He didn't know how to feel. First, he was told to jump off a roof. Kaken didn't mean it, of course, Izuku knew it. He met a villain right after and was almost dead, huh? Why did he saw humor in it just now? Then he was saved by his hero and got told to chase a more attainable dream. He saved Kaken from the same villain and got reprimanded by heroes. Heroes that did nothing when Kaken suffocated. He saw the articles, he was barely mentioned, and described as a quirkless friend who's in over his head and jumped in a situation in which he wasn't needed. But Izuku knew though. Izuku knew how suffocating the slime is, and Kaken could only hold his breath for so long. He bought some time. That's more than what the heroes did, standing in front of the crowd doing nothing. Like some kind of a bystander? But their hero though? Their hero, right? Izuku, his mother called. Izuku quickly snapped out of it and caught her silhouette on the door frame. Yes, Mom? Are you still thinking about the new dream? He let out an awkward laugh. What gave you the idea? I can hear your mumbling from miles away. His mother's eyes wrinkled from the soft smile she gave him, and if he noticed how red they were, none of them was willing to talk about it. You have got time, Izuku. Don't rush it. I'm going to high school soon, Mom. That earned him a laugh. You had just supported my point, though. Dream job is still in a distant future. Why not search for a dream for the near future? What do you want to do right now? I want to save people. His thought betrayed him. With the door closing, Izuku was left alone once again with his mind. Why is it so hard for him to find another dream? Why can't he save people like his original dream? Is he really the useless Deku? Is it because the quirklessness? Why though? Why does quirklessness matter so much? Why does quirk matter so much? Why does a strain of DNA matter so much? His mind kept rummaging one issue after one issue, and soon his fog of thoughts cleared, and his eyes glinted beneath the night sky. He found his purpose. He found his new dream. Rising from his bed, he grabbed a new notebook on his shelf. He wrote on the cover page, Analysis for New Dream Project Number 1. 2 months before UA entrance exam. In his long, immortal life, All for One had only met a number of interesting people, with most of them had their quirk as a major factor of his interest. It is no wonder if he was this excited about his particular new subject of interest, remembering that he had no quirk to begin with. Just the thought about it made him giddy. Midoriya Izuku, 14 years old student of Aldra Middle School. Quirk, Mun. Recently acknowledged for his advanced quirk analysis ability, and in scientific ground, his article on quirk intervention in social role. Of course, every insolent scum in this trash hero society only fawning after his quirk analysis ability which he shows in his QTube channel, youngsters, really. Admittedly, All for One himself only noticed him first by his knack on analysis. When he meets the boy, they surely would have a stimulating conversation. When, because of course he is meeting this boy, nevertheless the boy's choice in this matter. But what made him more intrigued is one live interview that questioned the boy of his consistency. The image he built in his QTube is fairly distinct from what he stood for in his paper, accused the interviewer. First, All for One's question was, what paper? He finally found the paper, a well-supported yet controversial national awarded publication. He came to agree to what the interviewer had said. In his paper, Midoriya Izuku argued that quirk intervention in social role must be minimized, but his QTube channel clearly promotes shiny, flashy quirks. His channel has a total of 17 videos of analysis at that time, with 77% of them being about quirks that's suitable for hero work in the surface looks, which suggests that he indeed supported quirk segregation. With elegance, the rising celebrity apologized that he appeared to look that way. In his defense, All for One noticed the terror in his eyes when the interview said that his QTube appeared to promote flashy quirks. The boy then punched the interviewer in the gut with facts. He presented that first 4 videos he posted without counting the video he did of Kamui Woods, the video that started it all, and the one that gathered him many subscribers, had an even number between the hero-like quirk and not-so-hero-like quirk. The boy explained that he tried so hard to give them both equal good lighting. But, in the end, the hero-like quirk only had an average of 4% of negative comment related to the quirk, while the not-so-hero-like quirk had got an average of 16%. That's 4 times more than the other, he passionately stated. He sounded, arguably, naively adorable, in All for One's opinion. After those videos, he met difficulties in finding a willing interviewee with not-so-hero-like quirk. The other 2 of not-so-hero-like quirk videos that came after that were thanks to well-known pro-heroes who supported his stands and didn't mind the negative comment that came their way thanks to the video. Those videos managed to raise the boy's popularity though. And then All for One took an amusement out of the interviewer who was obliterated by kind yet sharp words after the said interviewer pushed the boy again. The boy apologized that his standing didn't come as clear, since he had no education related to managing a social media and public relation. Neo-san's critiques are so welcomed. I'll work hard to portray my opinion in the clearest way possible so that individuals with liberty of mind could get one same conclusion about me. Though, I wonder, what is Neo-san's clear message in asking these questions? Have you ever met any struggle in conveying your message? I'm still not quite sure about this whole thing, honestly, the boy said with a slight frown and clear confusion. All for one recognized an act when he saw one. The most intriguing part, though, was his action after the live interview. Still in the same day of the interview, his channel's description changed from a part-timer analyst, tore apart your quirk, to analyst and activist, tore apart your quirk and your mind. All for one loved the description. He then uploaded a video, still in the same day, in a new playlist called, "This Is How You Scream It." The video's title is, "If One Kid Can Hope." With his budding popularity due to his analysis, added with his viral interview that the denizen of the net described as, "This kid slayed his interviewer," his video was watched by a total 6 million people in a day, gaining the attention it deserved. You see, all for one loved brilliant mind. It's so convenient that the boy had a video, a really sentimental and inspirational video, ready to be uploaded by the time he went viral. Was he a natural public opinion shifter? From what all for one gathered, he was not. The boy had another account once, in another name, before he had the analysis channel. That account voiced his concern about society nowadays, but it only gained 19 subscribers. Honestly, it's not bad considering the channel was only a month old. After the analysis channel went popular, exactly a week after the channel's creation, the boy deleted the first channel. It was trial and error at its finest, and all for one loved it. Now, if only he could get him to join his side. The only problem, though, was the boy's channel name. Deku's here. The boy had a good taste for description, but bad taste for names, that's for sure. In his long, tiring days, Yagi Toshinori reflected on the passing months. He grew anxious, since he had not found a successor for his quirk. His time was still constant, in his limit of 3 hours maximum a day. Not to mention that soon his time of being a hero would be lessened due to his new job in UA. That reminded him, he had a teacher meeting in 5 minutes. Shit. Flying across Mizudafu, he arrived 3 minutes late for the meeting, earning him a couple of judgmental looks, thrown by Aizawa-san and Nedzu, though Nedzu was still very subtle in his look. Or maybe that was just his general look. He's still standing. Sorry for the wait, comrades. And then some blood was spilled. Already with his deflated form, All Might took his seat. The meeting was to discuss the entrance exam and reviewing the applicant's form. Everything screamed dull works, at least until Midnight squealed. "We got him. We got him, we got him, we got him." Sensing questioning looks from her comrades, Midnight licked her lips and started to read the form on her hand. Midoriya Izuku. Quirk. Mun. Age 14. Achievement. National winner for publication under 17 Social Humanities Category 22XX. Brand Ambassador for Quirkless Footwear. Brand Ambassador for Hero Pal, Hero Merchandise Company. Nominated for the upcoming National Teen Award for Most Influential Teen. Nominated for the upcoming National Teen Award for Best Public Speaker. Nominated for the upcoming National Teen Award for Best Social Media Use. Second winner for essay writing in the National Psychology Week competition for high school category. Really, though, his achievement has no end. A quirkless overachiever? All Might coughed some blood once again. Aizawa-san went back to his paperwork begrudgingly, mumbling what it sounded like, celebrity in UA, and hope he doesn't get any of my class. Yagi looked around and found some of the teachers smiled in satisfaction on Midnight's news, while Nedzu was sipping his tea with barely contained excitement. In the end of day though, Nedzu asked him to stay for a cup of tea. I love how smooth my fur are these days. Look, All Might, it is incredible to know how significant a good sleeping habit is. All Might worriedly looked the principal of UA in the eyes. I hope I'm not here just to discuss fur, principal sir? Indeed you're not. In fact, I have a good news for you. I expected that you have little time to follow recent trend, don't you? Oh yes. I dash. Perfect. Watch this. Yagi Toshinori nearly had a heart attack when a hologram appeared right in front of him. The screen then played a video, and a green-haired boy appeared standing on a rooftop of a building. And so, Yagi Toshinori watched. It was a matter of time though before Yagi's eyes were wet from tears. The video was clearly sincerity speaking through. And now, after finally connecting the two dots, he came to realize. That boy dash. Nedzu waited for this very moment to release his mad. Is the boy who knew my secret? Cackle? All Might waited patiently for Nedzu's input in this matter, but the Bear Mouse man was clearly in the middle of processing something. Finally though, the man spoke. How did this boy come to know your secret? So Yagi explained. The way he saved the boy from the sludge villain, and how the boy clung to him when he leaped. He ended up revealed his deflated form and explaining his injury and time limit. Then the boy asked if he could become a hero, and Yagi, with his good conscience, simply could not send a kid with no power to the battle of hero and villain. Then the boy saved his friend and encouraged him to be a hero once again. He really has a knack on motivating people, doesn't he? Yagi laughed. Nedza didn't join him. It only came to Nedza now, the reason for Izuku's Midoriya outstanding performances in the recent months. That sludge incident and All Might's discouragement. Of course. Things just got complicated now. You see, Nedzu was really happy when Izuku Midoriya applied to his school. With his influence, UA's public image can be controlled and predicted more accurately. With the boy in the side of hero, he could help them maintain public opinion in a positive way. Not to mention, to have that wonderful mind as a part of UA. Nedzu felt a thrill in his bones. But, after this revelation, the boy's motive on applying here is not certain for Nedzu. He simply could not predict it. Is he on the side of hero? If his videos are only about quirk equality, then he wouldn't worry. But the boy showed some tendencies to favor villains, and while it is good to know that he realized the world isn't black and white, he still didn't know what shade of gray the boy was. Principal Nedzu-san? He looked up to the worried All Might. I got quite lost in my thoughts. The principal beamed. Now, you must know that this boy is a genius. His channel started about 7 to 8 months ago, and he did some analysis on the rising hero, Kamui Wood. His analysis consisted of the description of the hero and his quirk, how his quirk works in principle and its broad application, his own theory and speculation about the application, his fighting style, his psychological states and effects, his weakness and 20 ways to beat him. With or without quirk. Some blood was spilled. Yagi looked Nedzu in horror. Is he a villain then? Nedzu smiled. Well, he also gives heroes some insight on improvement and how to counter their weakness, and of course, to counter those plans he made before. And he made sure the hero watched the video, so that no villain caught the hero off guard. Yagi sighed in relief. But then, I'm sure if he's a villain you're already dead by now. It's a guaranteed prediction. Some blood was spilled. Really, it's certainly concerning how many blood cough he got by being near Nedzu. Yagi looked at the QTube channel. The boy's account name was a copy of his tagline. But the description. It's quite villainous, isn't it? The description. Yes, but no need to worry about it. The young generation sometimes just like it like that. But Nedzu wasn't finished. What you must now is how he gained the fame he has now. You see, his video was sent to Kamui Woods by fans who were concerned about Kamui Woods' safety if he didn't watch the video. Kamui would then confirm to the worried fans that he had watched it and thanked Deku for his analysis. Deku then had a chirper account who took requests on ways to improve people's quirk. Of course, not all requests got a chirp from him, but he manages his answers so that the quirk with similar principle can take example from the suggestion on the chirp he made, even though it was not meant for them. The boy was clearly smart, and his analysis may be only a couple years behind from Nedzu's. But what made the boy so big was his strategy. He masterminded everything to reach the point of his success only in a matter of months. He practiced a little manipulation here and there, yet still kept his innocence in the public's eyes. To have such public opinion power in his little, 14-years-old hands. Principal, All Might interrupted his thoughts once again. I think I realized now why you invited me and showed this young man video. Did he though? You want me to pick him as a successor? Such a symbol in his young age. He will make a great symbol of peace. And then All Might froze in his smile to watch human extinction in Nezu's beady eyes. All Might, you've met my prediction, yet I never felt so disappointed. All Might cringed. Izuku wanted to die. His schedule was full, and he had one more video to film this week. Not to mention his study for Youth God. Why did he decide to do this again? For a new dream. That man was right about men being a slave for their desires. Damn it. Not to mention he experienced a weird situation where everyone turned from mean to sugar-coated lemon sweet in the span of months due to his rising popularity. His only constant was Kaken, who still hadn't acknowledged his presence. And now, he was walking quickly to home, since he needed to review some material quickly before brainstorming for the next week's video's idea. Before he realized, though, he fell. And some black fog was surrounding him in seconds. Shigaraki Tamura hated Deku. First, the guy was weak. He could kill him anytime with his hand, and poof, the guy's gone. Second, he rambles about heroes. Admittedly, he always enjoyed the part when he revealed 20 plans to beat the heroes with or without quirks. For him, Deku's cold calculating gaze when he tore apart heroes' quirk and turned their weakness against them was the only good thing about the guy. He subscribed to the guy's channel, so what? Then, he talked shit about this society, sugarcoating it with hope and shit, and was still loved by the public. When villains did it, no one listened. Yet this kid talked and they all stood and clapped? What's so special about this kid anyway? His main reason, though, was Sensei's interest in the guy. So when the kid got dropped in the middle of his bar thanks to Kurogyri, he needed every inch of patience in his body to stop himself from grabbing the boy by the throat. Patience he realized he didn't have. As soon as he could, 4 of his fingers found their ways to surround the weakling's neck. Only to be met by pain. He hissed. What? What did you do, you useless NPC? He shrieked at the boy, who was still standing and watching him like a deer caught in a red light. Tamura took a look at his hand and saw that his right pinky was bent in the wrong way. And when he tried to push it back to the supposed direction, he was met by intense pain. The kid's big fucking eyes were still warily watching him, assessing him like he was some kind of museum display. Tamura snapped. Explain yourself before I kill you. The kid gulped. He managed to frighten him. Based on your touch on my neck, I realized you have an emitter type with 5-finger activation condition. So, snapping one of your fingers was the first thing that came to my mind so that your condition couldn't be met. Based on your look, you either have a sanitary issue or a quirk-related issue from which you got your dry skin. Dry? Does your quirk make things you touch dry? No living thing could survive without water. That, supported with your villain status, a deduction I made because you are technically kidnapping me right now, I assumed you probably have a fatal quirk, which increases your danger. Psychologically though or not. Enough. Kurogyri interrupted the boy, sensing a bloodbath that would definitely follow them if the boy wasn't stopped. But Tamura was not done. If only the brat knew he was only alive because of Kurogyri Tamura wanted so bad for the brat to be a pile of dust. He still got his left hand. He could do it. Shigaraki Tamura, Kurogyri tried again, saving the boy once more. We can heal your finger later. State your plans to him. Izuku watched as the fog addressed the white-haired hand-obsessed guy, calming another episode of a tantrum. It was a tantrum, right? It looked like a tantrum. He watched as the villain in front of him scratch his own neck aggressively. Definitely a tantrum. Hurting himself like that was another sign of it. Didn't it sting though, scratching his neck like that? He wanted to stop him from scratching. Adults were supposed to stop kids from hurting themselves in their tantrums. But he decided against it. This was a villain's lair, for goodness sake. Perhaps distracting himself with other, insignificant thoughts was just his defense mechanism as the back of his mind screamed. But just why must he be sent to a villain's lair? The villain's ragged breath pulled his attention again, and God, he hadn't stopped scratching his neck. A dangerous, unstable, psychopathic villain. This was just his luck. Izuku evened his breath. He had to survive this. He had fought plenty of street attackers before, this one would be no different. His phone was unfortunately in his bag, and he couldn't make a big move with his hands, since the black fog guy was still watching him. What to do? Alright, the teen villain finally stopped his tantrum and turned his focus on Izuku. But Izuku hadn't made any plans yet. The villain, unaware of Izuku's internal turmoil, started his monologue. Brat, as much as I despise you, I need you in my party. We're going for the final boss, All Might, and gonna kill him for good. With your strategy, we could do it and much more. It's time we build a new, preferably not rotten society, by destroying this society's pillar. What do you say? What kind of monologue is that? Izuku gulped as he processed the villain's words. He used game terminology, which supported Izuku's thoughts that the villain was indeed an immature child. The bored tone he used made Izuku thought that the guy wasn't serious about what he's saying. But those manic eyes said otherwise. Now, what's the best course of action? Izuku couldn't just deny his request, but he didn't want to be trapped with this unstable villain too. Looking at the villain with many mutilated hands, Izuku knew for sure that his way out of here was either be killed by them or be killed because of being associated with them. The teen evened his breath and looked around the villain's base. There must be something he can use. But Tamura caught him in his action and growled. Don't think about escaping or I'll turn you to dust. Your answer. Izuku watched as the villain scratched his neck again, waiting patiently for his answer. Some anger management, he thought. How the hell did this villain plan to kill All Might? He blinked. Wait, that's it. Izuku smiled, braving himself for the agony awaits. I understand. Still, before I make a decision, can I meet the big boss? The beat? What? Tamura growled. Izuku didn't reply to him and only stared straight at the TV screen in the wall behind the white-haired villain. It was an odd addition to a bar like this, with how elegant it was decorated. It's obvious for him now. The white-haired villain, Shigaraki Tamura, was being manipulated. Someone that unstable managed to live this long and freely? Not possible. And Izuku refrained himself from scoffing. This was no villain who had the ability to kill All Might. He probably guessed wrong about the TV, but good villains love dramatics. By that concept, someone behind Shigaraki Tamura, who pulled all his string, was indeed behind Shigaraki Tamura. Soon, he heard a boisterous laugh. The TV went static for a while, catching Izuku's attention, and some voice waves began to appear. He guessed right. What an achievement before he died. You really are an interesting person, Midoriya Izuku, someone from the TV said. The big boss. Do please amuse me, why do you want to see me? He eyed the two villains in front of him carefully. The fog man stood still just like he was before, and Shigaraki Tamura was just madly scratching his neck, like always. He concluded that they looked stable enough. He went straight to answer the voice. If I were to decide to confide my dreams and plans with a party, shouldn't we come to a compromise? While I'd love to hear Shigaraki-san's motive, I intend to hear it straight from whom he learned it. A moment of silence surrounded him, and he prayed to any gods there were for his safety. The voice broke the silence. Excellent. Kurogyari, take him to my place. Izuku realized he couldn't really know whether the gods answered his prayer or not. Leaving the fuming Shigaraki Tamura, Izuku couldn't be more relieved, yet he was dreading to meet another villain. The place he was in now was already worse the second he got there, with weird smells of chemicals and putridness filling his nose. He could see big boxes bigger than the size of an average man and hear the bubbling sound that came from inside them. Definitely suspicious. Please enter the door in your left, Midoriya Izuku, someone's voice boomed. He gulped. Couldn't he just make a run out of there? But he couldn't know what the villain's quirk. It was too risky. Sighing, Izuku opened the door the villain mentioned, and the sight of a man on his chair immediately greeted him. He was attached to so many cables, and his head, half of it didn't look human. What happened to him? Horrible, isn't it? I got it almost 6 years ago while fighting a giant buffoon. Izuku spluttered. I am sorry. That was rude of me. I didn't mean to stare. You're still handsome, trust me. Wait, did you say 6 years ago? All for one was pleased. Midoriya Izuku was certainly entertaining, and seemed to be gullible enough. He could make use of this. Yes, what about it? Revelation struck him. and he accidentally mumbled something incoherent. But, to All for One's enhanced hearing, the word All Might was still quite distinguishable. Of course, it only increased All for One's interest by tenfold. So you know about my fight with All Might? You're more knowledgeable than what I expected. Izuku refrained from punching himself on the mouth. Him and his stupid mumbling. The teen started to think. What's the best course of action when facing a villain capable to injure the symbol of peace? The answer was clear: compromise. Well, yeah, Izuku started. By this, please. I have to know, though. What's your quirk? Is it a mental quirk? Is that why All Might damage your head? Is it an intelligence quirk? Mind-reading quirk? Mind manipulation quirk? So many mental quirks, I have no place to begin with. Izuku beamed. He put on his usual Deku mask, acting all gullible and excited for a new chance to study a quirk, while crying on the inside. Unfortunately, All for One saw through it. While I appreciate your enthusiasm for my quirk, I have to say that your act will be more believable if you hide those fear in your eyes more. He definitely was not on the verge of crying. Okay, then, Izuku exhaled a shaky breath. He eyed his striking red shoes, not bothering to act daring to look the villain in the eyes. I'll cut straight to the point. For you. What do you want? And what do you want from me? The feral smile the villain sent to him implied that he was satisfied. I am mostly known as All for One, the villain introduced himself. I was born at the dawn of quirks, and my own quirk, All for One, enables me to take and give someone quirks. I can wield multiple quirks, also combine and use them as I please. For a moment Izuku stood in silence and tried to even his breath. This is a real supervillain, Izuku. Hold your nerd tendency before you meet an early death. He peeked to see All for One only to catch the villain throwing a smug smile at him. The bastard knew I'm itching to talk about his quirk. Izuku managed to put himself together and asked him to continue. The villain indulged him. I'll have you know that I've been in this mission for 200 years. You see, in my time, quirk wielders were hunted. When they realized it was genetic, they hunted the whole family of the quirk wielders. It was not my favorite time. I was like you, leading a revolutionary group to demand equality between quirk people and the normal, quirkless people. Because it was a time of chaos, and with the government kept hunting us, we reciprocated them with equal force. All for one side, but I got beaten in the end, and people relied on heroes and child soldier manufactory in the name of school became norm. It was like watching a 200 years long nightmare. The villain finished narrating his story, which Izuku knew must be the extra sugar-coated version of it. And surely, Izuku started hesitantly, in the time of peace, you turn your method to the subtler ones so that you still promote those rights you're fighting for and abandon war ways of thinking? He was met by silence. He decided to push again. Kidnapping and killing may be tolerated in the time of war, but it was frowned upon nowadays. You do realize that, don't you? Well, we had no choice. We were already being labeled as villains and children had already fantasized about beating us. Why not strike a little fear? Izuku face-bombed. So much for only defending themselves. But still, he contemplated the villain's story. After some time, he shrugged. Sure, we use your story, it was good enough, and to think he never heard of this side was only pushing him to believe that there was indeed a conspiracy plot in this, but then, how to change the public opinion in favor of us? All for One's mind halted. He said us. And he is consciously willing to play with his story. Midoriya Izuku was indeed interesting. We break the public's faith in their heroes, of course. So, the boy raised his eyebrow, with no one to trust, they will willingly turn to you? Because they know that you will reign with murder and intimidation? He eyed the villain dubiously. You do realize that your way has no long-term effect, right? Somebody will stand up in front of you, bring a lot of people, and knock you down into submission. That's just a cycle of violence. Didn't you say the heroes are the ones who promote violence? Or not? If AFO could roll his eyes, this was it. Yes, because they are legally allowed to use violence. We're villains. We broke the law. Izuku scrunched his nose. So heroes shouldn't be allowed to use violence, but villains are? I'm sorry, I don't understand the logic. I think everyone should be able to use violence to defend themselves from violence. There were definitely no sides in this matter. Yes, thank you all for one smiled. Little Deku had some hope after all. That's what we're trying to do. All for one explained. To live where there is no label such as hero and villain. Do people really want to promote the label villain? This is the villain you created by labeling people like that, I want to state. The boy nodded seriously and mumbled for a long time while All for One waited patiently. The boy was only a hatchling after all. All for One could wait for him. He didn't wait for too long. The boy was suddenly up on his feet, eyes twinkling in excitement. All for One felt a thrill deep down in his bones. Izuku's mind was already in full working mode. He had thought about it, and he agreed to some points, and while he didn't agree to erase the hero label, Izuku smiled. Yes. I think I can work with you. Your dream is reasonable and worthy of fighting for. The both of them exchanged a satisfied smile, keeping their own plot to themselves. Izuku had to draw his line though. But, I have to ask you one last question. Does the end really justify its means? Did you really have nothing to regret regarding your method? All for One couldn't see the boy, but he could feel the excited look in his eyes. All for One's mind was suddenly brought to a beach, once upon a time where he and his brother used to play. The sun was setting, orange hues burned the clouds and sands soiled a pile of comic books. He remembered. His brother's eyes were also. He quickly snapped out of it. Yes, of course, little one, he hastily replied. And no, I have no regret. The boy dauntlessly stood his ground while having a staring contest with a supervillain. He was not a child. He could spot a denial when he saw one. Izuku stated his mind. I knew you were hesitating just before. I really think we should discuss your methods. This was where he drew his line. No killing. All for One wanted to laugh right at the moment, but the boy continued on. We will erase this hero system, but no killing, the boy stressed. Let it be known that we fight for humanity, even if we are ruled by this broken society. Could we make such arrangement? All for One couldn't see this of course, but he could feel the boy was giving him puppy dog eyes. Unbelievable. You are saying to change my MO? The boy nodded vehemently. It would be ironic if the villain appeared like they don't want to resort to violence, but the heroes do. It would definitely confuse them. Let it also be known, the boy started, that the villains they labeled are still capable of changing. We are humans. We constantly change, and our mistakes should not define us. That's why villain rehabilitation facilities are not a waste of resources. All for One could see this plan work deliciously. Yes, planting doubts in this society with this method is possible too. Seriously, it feels like the Congress who made the law hasn't passed the age of 6 yet. They still had their immature aspects of pre-operational thoughts, thinking everything is in constant dash. All for One snorted. The boy kept mumbling nonsensical stuff, and if All for One laughed genuinely out of pure joy for the first time in 200 years, no one needed to know. And hey, his revenge on All Might could wait. He had all the time to do it, anyway. The talk with this boy made him remember his original motive. Yes, All for One must win this society first. So, what should I call you? You can call me Sensei, as how Tamura and Kurojiri call me. I will call you Izuku. You didn't ask me if I'm okay with it. I will call you as I pleased. Incoherent mutter, 200 years old savage dinosaur. The day of entrance exam for general course. The gate of his dreams never felt so real before. Izuku Midoriya stood behind a crowd of students, each of them walking with a certain determination in their gaze. Of course. This was UA's entrance exam, after all. The exam that had the lowest success rate in the nation. Everyone would be focused on the exam. Izuku smiled and kept reassuring himself with that thought. You see, he didn't wear any hoodies to cover his identity because he must abide the uniform rule. So it's good to know that these students were focusing on the exam and the exam alone. Hey, aren't you the Deku guy? Really? Where? In a couple of minutes, he was swarmed by a crowd of students even before entering the building. Hey, can you do me an analysis? I'm applying to the hero course. Me too. Shut it. I was here first. That's it. Izuku put on his mask, the fake sweet kind of mask he created this past months to deal with his ex-bullies turned friends passive-aggressively, before spoke a bit loudly at the crowds. Are you sure you want to prepare your next exam? Don't you think you should focus on what's in front of you first? The crowd went silent, probably because of the slight edge he put in his voice. Before they had the time to get over their shock, Izuku beamed at them. Let's kill this test, guys. Don't break your concentration just yet. May the best 60 get in. The crowds were lifted in spirits by this, and several were heard. Izuku sighed in relief as he finally could get inside the exam hall and immediately started to search for his seat column. He was in a relatively good mood since he successfully protected his Deku image, so he hummed and smiled a little bit while doing it. Only to find his green-ass seat was between two purple-haired students. This universe just had to make him stand out. Whoa, aren't you the Deku guy? The girl on his right asked. Before he even sat, he smiled at the girl. His mother had raised him to be polite. Hi. The girl smirked. I'm Jairu. Izuku nodded at her and took his seat quietly, hoping that the girl took a hint to just ignore him. Midoriya. At that moment though, Izuku noticed her ears from beside. Now, he may had grown to dislike the attention he got since his past bully only came to befriend him for his fame, but if his fame could help him satisfy his curiosity around quirks, then why not take advantage of it? Is that an earphone jack? You can amplify sound? Super hearing? The girl, Jairyuka, widened her eyes. Whoa dude, you figured it out just like that? Yeah, I can amplify my heartbeat and hear a lot of things. Your work is cool, by the way. He gave her an awkward laugh. Thank you. I got lots of negative feedback recently, so your words mean so much. You basically said endeavor won't surpass all might in any way, said the symbol of peace will soon retire and stand for the villains they hated so much. Of course they're angry. They thought you're just a quirkless pity case. The voice startled the both of them. They turned to see a tired-looking boy raised his head from the desk, which had been becoming his pillow the moment the boy entered the exam hall, right before he started to speak. Shinso Hitoshi. I've got villainous quirk. Izuku raised one of his eyebrows. Really? What is it? The boy crossed his arm in front of his chest while throwing challenging looks at him. The boy thought he would agree to what he said. Brainwashing. I can make people do as I say, he stated. Izuku was so going to break that assumption. That's an amazing quirk. And really powerful. It's unfair. You could apprehend villains without hurting them, minimizing property damage. Infiltration. Not to mention calming victims, stopping suicide. Do you want to be a hero? It's definitely a hero quirk. Can you help people sleep? Can you plant mental suggestion? I have so many questions. The boy looked surprised. Take that. And mumbled something, gotta say this. You're creepy. Thank you. Was a response he learned so that he was not hurt by any mean words he got. The boy sunk his head and mumbled, not a compliment. After a while though, Izuku subtly watched the guy. He looked almost shy to Izuku. It only came to Izuku now. Was he bullied before? Because of his quirk? Was he expecting Izuku to agree about his quirk because that was what everyone told him? Not because he was his hater? Now Izuku felt ashamed for assuming the worst. While he probably didn't show his assumption, Izuku still felt guilty about it. And now that he suspected that the boy was bullied because of his quirk, Izuku found himself enraged. Hey, he started, I have this project. Do you want to help me? I really need your opinion on something. The boy didn't even take time to think about it. Sure. Izuku beamed. That was the smoothest deal he had ever made. Cool. We can hang out after this exam to discuss it. Izuku turned to his right. Hey Jairu, do you think you can help too? I don't want to assume, but you like music, don't you? Jairu blinked. Huh. Hitoshi smirked at her. He said you have this rock girl vibe. The girl made an effort to make herself smaller. I, play some instruments, the girl quietly replied. Izuku was so having his day. Do you want to join my project? He offered, hoping that he didn't sound too eager. You see, I think words can get to people's heart. But I didn't realize that these days, hearts could be so hard to deal. No matter the feelings I pour in my words, they just wouldn't listen. Welcome to the real world, added Hitoshi in a bored tone. So, I want to amplify the feeling. And what better way to express feelings than a song? That's where you and Shinso come in. Wait, song? Hitoshi's mind halted. Why dash? Hitoshi wanted to interrupt him. He didn't know anything about songs. But unfortunately for him, clicking sound of a pair of heels on the stage had already won Izuku's attention. The boy's eyes practically shone as his head snapped to look at the stage so fast. That's the 18+ pro hero Midnight. Oh, I can't believe it. She's so cool. Shoo. The tests are going to start. The test felt like a breeze to Izuku. So many logic and higher-order thinking questions, stimulating yet answerable if you figure out the real purpose of the question. But the history part pained him so much. He would have to follow what the textbook and filter what sensei had taught him. You see, in 2 months, he had only uploaded 3 analysis video and 3 opinion videos. The first opinion video was to break apart Endeavor's hero career and why he would not match All Might. It has nothing to do with his quirk. If you're looking for the best quirk to beat All Might, then you'll find nothing. Not because All Might's quirk is the strongest, but because All Might didn't become #1 because of his quirk. The second video was to break down All Might. No, he didn't reveal his secret. He just told them how All Might didn't become #1 because of his quirk and May also gave statistical proof on why All Might would retire soon, which got him a lot of critics. And the third video was about how the government's villain rehabilitation as it was now was just pure bullshit and didn't help at all. And he might or might not had appeared strongly as villain sympathizer. That's where it all turned sour. It was like the reverse strategy of his previous one. Foundation, build it up and crash it. Worked deliciously, but rather than lifting him, it dragged him down. He was unaware of it for a while, since he was busy getting lessons from sensei. But 3 days after the third video uploaded, he got so many critics in social media. It turned out that some news channel labeled him as villain sympathizer, and everyone was eating it from their palm. It's like they didn't watch the video. Of course he still had his supporter, so he didn't worry much. Sensei said it was bound to happen, so he shrugged it off and focused on learning for the entrance exam. There were so many things to learn, and Sensei was giving him extensive lesson about urban warfare, strategy making, leadership, micromanipulation, microexpression, public law and hero law. Ironic, but Sensei said good villains needed to master it so they could play around it and see what's wrong with it, and history. He loved history the most, since Sensei always added his input. He lived through the making of hero society after all. But he needed to do something. So, what can we help with? Hitoshi drank his coffee in a large gulp, burned tongue be damned. They were sitting in a cafe beside the train station near UA, and Izuku was already buried underneath a 13 hoodie. Izuku pointed a pen at him. Shin-so, I need you to write things that's on your mind before you fall asleep tonight. Related to the treatment you get, and the harsh truth of this society to you, of course. Kyuka raised her eyebrow, already interested with how Deku instructed the other guy. What about me? Deku turned to her. You have an important role, Jairu, he stated, making Kyuka gulped in anticipation. In fact, you would be the key success. You can start to research what type of music that could convey the lyrics and amplify it. Maybe find some catchy notes. You need to make people cry and reflect. You should know that we aim to move people's heart with this song. Kyuka blinked. Deku really thought ahead, she thought. And Kyuka herself also had already made a couple melody that she deemed to have a potential. Whether Deku was lucky to meet her, or he just creepily figured her out in 5 minutes they met, Kyuka didn't really want to know. Hitoshi stared at Izuku, calculating look filled his gaze. Must you work this fast? We just met today. How can you just trust us like that? We could be a procrastinator for all you know. Izuku sighed. It's almost a week after I uploaded the last video. I'm desperate. I need to move soon, I can't lose my momentum. He looked at Kyuka pleadingly. I'm sorry, Jairu. I know we just met, but I'm counting on you. I'll try to make the lyric tonight after Shinso send me his thoughts. I'll send it to you tomorrow. His eyes widened as an idea came upon him. Wait, what if we meet tomorrow? Kyuka played with his earphone jack. Deku was surely intense. No can do. I'm applying to the hero course too. The entrance exam is tomorrow, she told them. Hitoshi nodded. Me too. Hero course entrance exam. Izuku's mind went short-circuited. He gaped at the both of them as he came to his senses. Really? I have future heroes to help me? You easily get sidetracked, huh? Hitoshi smirked, making Izuku blushed. Sorry. This was so embarrassing. But really though, you giving your time to me meant so much. And he meant what he said. UA's hero course was no joke. The passing rate was incredibly low. And to think they would be a pro-hero several years in the future. Izuku shook his head. Okay, we need to stop talking about this project. How is your preparation for tomorrow? Kyuka shrugged. I don't prepare much. The written test is most likely similar to the general course, with addition of some situational questions for hero work. It's the practical that's worrying though. We don't get any information about it, just to bring our sport uniform, and that support item isn't allowed. Izuku nodded, completely agreeing with Kyuka's thoughts. He tilted his head to the other purple head. What about you, Shinso? Hitoshi considered it for a moment. Deku was not applying to the hero course, it seemed. He decided there was no harm if he voiced his theory. He leaned down to them. I think we're gonna have to fight other applicant. What? Kyuka shouted in a hushed way. Fighting another applicant. That's just crazy. Hitoshi shrugged off the girl's disbelieving look. Just my thought. Izuku then started to mutter. No, I don't think so, he started. It is likely that the majority of the applicants have no prior professional quirk training. If UA let children with dangerous quirk on the loose to fight others, they can get sued. It is either you will fight a hero teacher, or something that doesn't get hurt, like robots. His two new friends widened their eyes. Teacher? Robots? Izuku shook his head. No, it's definitely robots. They don't have enough time to make it possible for the participants to fight the teachers one by one. It's definitely robots. Maybe based on point system, how many robots you defeat. Kyuka processed Deku's word, and as she realized it, her braying was even once again. My earphone jack can pierce through metal. I'll just crush the inner parts with my sounds. Izuku nodded and turned to his left, only to see Shinso's eyes had lost his light. Like he had no hope left. Shinso? Izuku asked worriedly. Hitoshi only laughed. His laugh was of sorrow, and Izuku's chest felt pained from it. Huh? He tried to brush off a tear that slipped from his right eye. I'm doomed. I can't exactly fight robots, can I? His sentence was met by silence. The strangers he met just today looked down, can't really deny his sentence. He decided he had enough. I'm going home. At this, Izuku's mind was alarmed. He couldn't have that. Shinso. Wait. I haven't finished analyzing the exam. But Hitoshi wanted to go home. No, he needed to go home. He couldn't just cry there, could he? I'll text you my part of the project. Izuku was tired of not being heard, so he snapped, eyes burning to the boy that had already walking away. Shinso Hitoshi, if you don't listen to me right now, you'll regret it. The boy stopped in his track. What? There was anger in his tone, but Izuku knew that that anger was not for him. No, he knew very well who the anger was for. Not all men were created equal. He started to explain, voice soft, as if any louder than that could make the boy break. I don't think you will be that shallow. This hero society loves extreme actions, or some dramatics to grab attentions, Izuku told him. And yeah, Hitoshi already knew that. Flashy quirks were everything, so he knew that very well. But Deku continued. UA promotes it the most, with All Might as an alumni and the sport festival. I think there will be another point system. Izuku watched as the boy turned to face him, but any hope was hidden. Maybe he didn't want to hope again. And that point system is? But Izuku had his own goal, and if he had to test his own new friend to accomplish it, then so be it. He hoped this was enough. He bore his eyes to the boy he just met. What would a hero do? He asked. The boy gave him no reaction. What's the main job of a hero? He tried again. If you can't answer those questions, then I can't help you. The boy nodded and in seconds he's gone. The walk to his home never felt so long. Izuku really wanted to help Shinso, but if he couldn't figure out what a hero first and main job is, then he shouldn't be a hero. He felt sorry though. Those with flashy and strong quirk could get in without realizing what a true hero really is. Later, Izuku found that it's no surprise he felt the walk was too long. He took a wrong turn. Now he almost arrived at Dagoba Beach. The beach's odor already could be smelled from where he stood. When people ask how a beach smelled like, the answer should be saltiness in the air. But Dagoba Beach's smell was not like that. The right words would be rust and foul. He decided to walk towards the beach, only to be greeted by mountains of trash. Izuku thought he knew how to earn back his society's golden boy title. At night, Shinso Hitoshi pondered on what Midoriya had asked. He laid on the bed, staring the ceiling with paper and pen on his stomach. But his mind kept tracking back to Midoriya's analysis for tomorrow's exam, fighting robots. The universe hated him so much, it just had to ruin the only thing he ever wanted. He had always wanted to be a hero. He recalled it clearly. The teacher always praised the one who get the hero role when they were playing. Heroes are cool. But they never let him be the hero. Would you even let him to be a hero? Were those playtimes a picture of the reality? No, Midoriya said there was another point system. But Midoriya refused to tell him, only giving him riddles to solve. What's the main job of a hero? Defeating villains, responding to natural disasters, making merchandise or something. What is it? What should he do? He had to solve this riddle. Why did he have to solve this riddle? The other kids with flashy, strong quirks will get in without needing to know what the exam is. They didn't have to solve puzzles. Why is it so unfair to him? Hitoshi sighed and picked up his pen. He moved to his chair and sat on it for a while, remembering all the harshness he got from having his quirk. He had a lot to say. Izuku was preparing for the video he planned to record tomorrow when the message from Shinso came. He thanked Shinso while sobbing from reading his message. The world was so cruel. Izuku stopped what he was doing before and started brainstorming for the lyrics. It needed to be heartfelt. And it needed to resonate with a lot of people. Not just the people with villainous quirk and the quirkless. He needed to resonate it with those with hero quirk as well. But what? The most general thing in Shinso's message was asking why couldn't they love him. Of course it made sense. Human has the need for affection and belonging, at least according to Maslow theory. Maslow theory, Izuku widened his eyes. Of course, there were people out there who were only loved by their quirk. When people reached the need for self-actualization, they would question their worth beside their quirks. So they probably could relate with the love question. Could work. Now, how to make it catchy? Shinso Hitoshi, 21.14. Why can't I talk like others? Why are they so afraid every time I talk? Just because I have villainous quirk that's voice-based? Why there has to be villainous and hero quirk? Why can't I have friends? My last friends were from kindergarten, before my quirk came. Did they just forget about me? Why can't people let me talk? Why did they always assume for the worst about me? Did I do something wrong? I never do bad things with my quirk. Why is it so hard for them to trust me? And when others hurt me, they said it's okay? Because I'm the villain? Why do people with flashy quirk get all the kind encouragement and advantage? Why can't society favor me for once? Why can't society love me too? Will they love me if I'm a hero? That's all I got. Sorry if it isn't much. Izuku Midoriya, 21.17. It's perfect. Thank you so much. I'm crying just by reading it. Good luck for tomorrow. When the exam started, Shinso Hitoshi only ran and followed the other students. He tried to punch a one-pointer, but its surface only bended a little, and his knuckles had already bruised. That was when he started to give up. An explosion could be heard, getting louder and louder by the time. He looked around and saw a feral creature flying with explosions on his palms. Hitoshi laughed bitterly in the sight of it. Of course there were people like that with flashy hero quirk. The blasty boy exploded another robot on his right, and immediately flew to search another robot. The boy didn't realize a debris that came falling down, obviously because of his explosion, straight to a girl with pink skin. In that moment, his heart was racing, and Midoriya's words rang loudly in his head. What would a hero do? What's the main job of a hero? Hitoshi's feet moved on its own. He saved a lot of people that day. A week after Yue's hero course's entrance exam, Deku's here uploaded a new video and shared it on every social media he had. It was titled With Wonder and gained 7 million viewers in a day. The video was 4 minutes long, and for the first time since ever, has other people's name in the credits that was not an interviewee. The media coverage was huge, and that only made it more famous. Izuku Midoriya was satisfied. A boy with green hair, someone who the public already familiar with, appeared to be seating on a high chair on a rooftop of an apartment building. His white t-shirt clung his body tightly, and you could see that his body was well built. The boy was still staring the ground when Deku's voice that sounded like a bad recording could be heard. Deku's here, trying to stand on your shoes. For you, who are the outcasts of the society. For you, who was seen only for your strong hero quirk. For you, who has a quirk they deemed villainous. For you, who was already deemed a villain. For you, who was fighting as a hero yet your voice still unheard. For you, the quirkless, the voice said, getting distorted by each second before it stopped. It stopped, and replaced by a clear harmony of sound, followed by a beat. And the boy started to sing. I wonder if I'm being real. Do I speak my truth or do I filter how I feel? I wonder, wouldn't it be nice to live inside a world that isn't black and white? The boy stood from his chair and walked further from the camera. I wonder what it's like to be my friends. He stopped and his head was looking down. Hope that they don't think I'll forget about them. And slightly to the left so that only a part of his face could be seen, hiding sorrow from the world. I wonder. The boy rose his head to face the sky. I wonder. And the camera rolled up and showed the clear blue sky before the scene shifted to a close-up of the boy, already changing clothes to a loose white t-shirt and green flannel outer, laying on the rooftop cement surface. Right before I closed my eyes. His bright green eyes was closed, and little by little opened with every whisper of the song. The only thing that's on my mind. Been dreamin' that you feel it too. I wonder what it's like to be loved by you. The boy suddenly rose and harsh wind greeted him. The camera angle turned to medium shot, viewing the flannel outer dancing with the wind, and it made it seem like he was flying. I wonder what it's like. I wonder what it's like to be loved by. The scene moved to a dark alley. I wonder why I'm so afraid. Only one small lamp at the end of the alley where the boy sat on the ground beside a trash can and leaned to the dirty wall of the alley. Of saying something wrong, I never said I was a saint. I wonder when I cry into my hands. The boy moved his hands to cup his face. I'm conditioned to feel like it makes me less of a man. And I wonder if someday you'll be by my side. Shadows of people could be seen on the end of the alley. And tell me that the world will end up all right. I wonder. The boy turned to see the shadows, but it disappeared right before he saw them. I wonder. The scene changed, and deep dark water filled the view, with only enough light to see the boy's face, drowning in the middle of it. The boy could be seen not moving underwater, eyes closed serenely. Right before I close my eyes. The only thing that's on my mind. Been dreamin' that you feel it too. The boy slowly opened his eyes and reached for the water's surface. I wonder what it's like to be loved by you. The boy broke the water surface. Up again in the air, the boy was apparently in the middle of the sea, face still facing the camera. He started to sing again. I wonder what it's like. A wave splashed into him, but he kept singing. I wonder what it's like to be loved by you. I wonder what it's like to be loved by you. The music transitions synced with the scene change, where the boy could be seen running to the edge of a rooftop. The boy stopped running right before he fell. The view was motioned in such a way and captured in angles from up above. I wonder what it's like to be loved by you. The boy screamed the words. I wonder what it's like to be loved by. Right before I close my eyes. His body moved to express his anger to the world. The only thing that's on my mind. And fell on his knees. Been dreamin' that you feel it too. The view was straight from above the boy, who had splayed his hands on the side, face and his chest faced the sky. I wonder what it's like to be loved by you. The boy was breathing hard, until the scene turned black. Wonder. 7M viewers. Description. Deku's here. my friends, and I made this song to connect people, regardless of their quirk status. Turn on the subtitle if you're curious for the lyrics. No, I'm not turning into a singer. It's just sometimes words aren't enough. I hope this song could get to your heart. Directed by Izuku Midoriya. Written by Izuku Midoriya, Kyukajiru, Hitoshi Shinso. Head of production by Kyutokujiru. Creative direction by Mikajiru, Izuku Midoriya, Kyukajiru. Director of photography Hitoshi Shinso. Comments. G0 Bay 0 ND AAA. It's here. It's been 2 weeks and it's finally here. Half kitten Deku, you should consider to be a singer. Like if this song is you. Electro wait he's ripped? That's so unfair. All night I'm crying. Brown he warned us in Chirper that it's not like his typical video. We deserve a better warning. I'm crying too much. W00DL0 Verdeku's no longer a one-man show? Where can I sign up? Muni 49 I was pressured by my parents to be a hero and I thankfully could talk my way out. I'm really not into punching and beating. I know that there are people out there who's like me that maybe isn't as lucky as me. It's okay. Everyone will always say you're not good enough, but you don't need everyone. Just someone who can understand you. Thank you Deku for connecting us. Warren Zero Eugene, this song is so good. Yumi 23 without the context, this is just a love song LMAO. Hawks for life marry me. Wait, I forgot you're 14. DekuWU the lyrics. Queenie, it's a masterpiece. I'm crying. The music industry is so quiet these past decades since everyone is obsessed with heroes. Yes, shitty hero movies with unnecessary romantic plotline. I'm looking at you. It's time to bring back the music. Orca finally. A good music. Deki00T my tears won't stop. B&D every comment saying they're crying. I've got my tear glands destroyed so crying blood it is. M1 GHY0 NER Deku made friends. B1 Chin UR for Arieha. These people bad-mouthing Deku before, babbling villain sympathizer this, villain sympathizer that. What? Now he put his words into song and you finally realized his message? What? If you relate to this song then you're a villain sympathizer. Can't hear ya. Edit. Fuck you. This video and that video is fucking the same. It's about giving your so-called villain a chance to live properly, to be loved. Fuck you. Green Bean. 18.18. Shinso. Our video is a success. Have you seen it? Everyone went crazy about it. Sleepy. 18.21. Let me sleep. You're not the director anymore. I haven't slept in 4 days. I barely function. Green Bean. 18.21. But thank you. I owe you and Jiru so much. And her parents. Shinso? While his popularity was still on its peak, Deku's here uploaded another video in the next day. The title was Real Trash of the Society. The video spread like a wildfire and everyone shared it to everyone they know. Hashtag Let Us Be Heroes, hashtag Muzutafu, and hashtag Dagoba Beach Assemble became viral. A boy, standing not far from the camera, full body on display, was looking at a pile of trash. By the angle, the camera was probably put on the ground. His hands were clenching hard the edge of the army green jacket he wore, and sadness could be seen from his posture. This is Dagoba Beach, the boy started. He turned to the camera, genuine pain shined through his eyes. Doesn't look much like a beach, does it? The boy walked to the camera and sit cross-legged, still with full body on display. My schoolmate used to tell me that I'm just the trash of society. It pained me to realize that they were so focused to see trash on the likes of me, so focused on seeking problems in innocent people, they ignored the real problem, the real trash. He turned to see the piles of trash again. Dagoba Beach was once the prized jewel of Muzutafu. These past decades though? People just look away. The boy let out a harsh breath. And when I hang around here a bit, I noticed that people actively took a role in making this beach to a dump. Something snapped in the boy's eyes. Looking away, making it worse? Those phrases are usually used to describe typical bystander, aren't they? And I thought we live in a hero society. The boy stood again. This time his body completely filled the frame from up and down. He pulled out a cloth from his jacket that had its surface painted. So, I'll say it, The boy took a deep breath. You too can become a hero. Heroes are not just the ones who fight crimes. Heroes are there for the people. They do community a service. That means we too can become heroes to our society. And pro-heroes, are you going to be a bystander and watch your people solve this community's problem by themselves? Or are you actually going to do something about it? The boy opened the cloth, and Dagoba Beach Assemble, Sunday, March 29th, could be seen messily written on it. Deku's here, and I invite every one of you to clean Dagoba Beach with me, Sunday, 29th of March. We'll return this beach to its former glory. See ya. At Sunday 29th, Izuku walked to the beach approximately at 6 a.m. He was expecting to see some people, maybe 11 to 20. But what he got was beyond his expectation. There were maybe hundreds of people who were already on the beach, moving the trash so it could be carried by the trucks. He called some trucks to move the trash, but he hadn't expected to saw tens of them. And some people prepared food trucks on the side of the street. He hadn't imagined this event would be so big. Hey, come here and help us. A guy he didn't recognize called him. It took him several seconds to answer. Weiss. It turned out there were more than hundreds of people. In fact, by noon, there were already 1.352 people and growing. Many were students, since they were still on vacation before the school start. The heroes and sidekicks were taking shifts on patrolling time and cleanup time. Their quirks made it so efficient. Especially Ryukyu, who in her dragon form, moved 4 mountains of trash in 1 hour. Even All Might showed up for a moment, cleaning up a mountain of trash all by himself. At the end of the day, the beach was clean enough, you could see all of its surface. It's not squeaky clean, but he probably could clean it himself tomorrow. Then some big guy with red hair came and illegally used their quirk to attract all of the little metal scrap to himself and brought them to the nearest truck. Now it's squeaky clean. Who would have thought? Sleepy. 19.12. I left you for a few days. And you lead a mass of people to do your bidding? Green Bean. 19.35. It's community service. Sleepy. 19.36. Do you know what a real community service are? Handling you. Green Bean. 19.36. Sad face. Tongue sticking out. Izuku. Never guessed in his long 14-years-old life that he would arrived in a point on his life where he could play video game with a mentally unstable villain. We learn something new every day. TSK, switch your gear already. Why did you pick something so lousy, it could barely receive any damage? He and Tamura Shigaraki was playing Shigaraki-san's new video game in a room at the bar. He had been bored in his room, he hadn't planned any video project for this week. He thought he was going to clean the beach all week, so he decided to contact Sensei. But Sensei was in a meeting with a doctor, so he suggested Izuku to bond with Tamura instead, using some methods Izuku learned from him. Sensei had made Shigaraki-san easy to trick with the simplest way, so he shouldn't have a real problem. Except for accidentally getting killed because of his anger issues. He really felt bad for doing this to Shigaraki-san. But it's a necessary evil. He would do it to save him. Izuku scrunched his eyebrows. I like it though. It increases my attack's effect. Tamura scratched his neck with one of his hands, feeling irritation crawled through his skin. The brat really didn't listen to him. Shigaraki-san. Tamura snapped. What? Do you have any suggestion for my next video? Tamura twitched. The brat dared to ask him that. Since the brat taking lessons from Sensei, his sensei, the brat had been trying to read him like he was some kind of a nutcase. And he knew. He knew that Tamura had only wanted All Might's downfall. Tamura paused the game and hissed, "You know what I want." The boy nodded, "Yes, but that's not what I ask, is it? I ask about your suggestion. It's not just about what you want, you can come up with many smart suggestions, so, why not try think of something else?" The controller in Tamura's hands had turned to dust and he counted some lame numbers, 1 kill, 2 kills, 3 kills. It was the brat's suggestion so he despised it, but it worked a bit. His breath had evened once more. "Just you wait. I will kill All Might and you will film it," he declared. The smaller boy looked thoughtful for a moment. Then he finally nodded. "Yeah, it will work. Tamura felt excitement crawled in every inch of his skin. He grinned, full smile with teeth decorated his face. You finally agree? The boy shrugged. It's an impactful attack. Of course it is. Imagine everything went crumbling down after the pillar they worship break beneath us. Yeah. Deku scrunched his eyebrows. But there's something lacking. Like it's not perfect yet? Lacking? Not perfect? What's more perfect than killing All Might? The Deku brat didn't make sense and Tamura hated it. Something itched his neck and he scratched and scratched until that feeling's gone replaced by a sharp sting of pain. It's better. What's lacking? He finally asked. Deku moved closer to him, eyes straight to stare at his eyes. I've watched you play many video games for this past months, Shigaraki-san. I learned something about you. The boy tapped his own temple with his index finger. You're a smart strategist? So? You always have a balance between attack and defense. That's what you were telling me just before, right? He nodded. Killing All Might is an impactful attack. But what about the defense? Tamura laughed. You're an idiot. We don't need a defense. It's completed after we kill the final boss. The boy tilted his head. Is he? Of course he is. Deku touched his chin and looked thoughtful again. Sensei did said he was still learning everything. Tamura didn't like him, but since he was an important party, Tamura should wait for him and let him grow. That's what Sensei was doing. He could do that too. But I don't think our final boss is All Might's. Tamura twitched. How could he's not the final boss? Remember when I attacked with my video about All Might retirement? TSK. Of course Tamura remember. It was to prove a point that All Might was fake. And that fake couldn't save everyone. But it was all a waste since every idiot in the country was delusional. They were not just protecting the man, they attacked you. Deku looked down. They did, didn't they? My strength is in my voice, but society made it meaningless and threatened to steal it from me. Tisk? Secret mission? Were they it? They could do it to you too, you know. Deku started hesitantly. They will put all the blames on you. They will hate you and spit on you. They will always remember All Might dearly as a martyr for their happiness and safety while hating us. It won't matter even if they don't have All Might to depend anymore, because they'll hate us. Only a small number of people will ever want to help us and join our party. Everyone else will hate us. They won't help us. They won't help us? Like in that alley. Tamura scratched. How could he forget? Society refused to help him from the start. They began the game. The main boss had been mocking him since the beginning. They thought they had won. Our final boss is the society. Deku widened his eyes. They need to destroy this society. Their pillar is All Might, but building something is not just with one pillar, they need a lot of it, so we have to kill all the other heroes too. He looked up to Deku again, just in time to see him shook his head. But our game is the highest level. And All Might and the other heroes are just some NPCs that help the final boss. What's the point of killing the NPCs? He was irritated, but the brat had point. What's the point of killing some NPCs? They were worthless, so it won't benefit them much. NPCs were there for the player too. He could attack them to attack the boss, of course, but could he use them for something else? Something he was lacking? Then it came to him. We can use them for attack and defense? Deku, the idiot, scrunched his eyebrows again. What do you mean? We attack them and use them as our defense. Let people blame them. That could really work. We could kill All Might and let the other heroes take the blame. But they will continue to love All Might and hate us for taking him from them even if we blame the other heroes for incompetence. It was still our hand in the other side of the gun, after all. It's not the ultimate defense. TSK. So what's the best attack and defense plan? His neck had started to itch again and it's only had been a couple minutes. The pain from before was still tickling. Deku was no better. He slumped his head on a pillow. This level is so hard. And to think the NPC of this game could fight and get us killed. Get us killed. The NPC could get them killed and they could kill the NPC. It's the defense. They attack because the NPCs attack them. Society won't be able to attack them because they did nothing wrong. But it wouldn't work if they attack the NPC first. They need to make the NPC attack them first, but to that, we'll trick the NPC, he stated. Deku rose from the pillow, eyes staring widely at him, and Tamura grinned maniacally. I have the perfect plan. Nedzu, UA's proud principal, had a weird way of giving speech. Izuku was analyzing him too much, he had a headache. At hindsight, the principal's words were just some nonsensical things, like fur, sleeping habits, and diet. But when you look at it a little closer, his words actually had a double meaning. Yes, he was secretly telling the condition of the hero society nowadays and subliminally ordered the students to be the slave of society. Or maybe not. Was boring. Izuku sighed. He glanced at his far right, where 1A should have been. Shinso and Jairu had both got into 1A. But 1A never arrived. 1 as homeroom teacher was also not introduced before. Izuku wondered. Was it accidental? No, it couldn't have been. Perhaps though. The teacher's identity couldn't be announced? Every pro-hero teacher was introduced with their real name, hero name, the subjects they teach, and their homeroom class. It is either their real identity couldn't be revealed or their hero name couldn't be announced. An underground hero, perhaps? The hair on his neck abruptly rose, and Izuku shivered. He looked up and saw the principal looking straight at him before continuing his speech. What was that? Izuku decided to not ponder over it and listened to the principal once again. Maybe the principal caught not paying attention. Why though? It's not like he's the only one not paying attention. And it clicked. Of course. The principal was interested in him, that's why he paid Izuku some attention. Sensei said to him that the Dagobah event was proof that he could move masses of people to his purpose. Both of the side, heroes and villains, would fight tooth and nail to earn his loyalty. And Nedzu wanted to use his advantage. The question though, could he hide Sensei's role in his story? The principal ended his speech, but before he dismissed the students, he added one more thing. And Izuku had expected it. Oh, that's right. Before you all go to your assigned class, I'd like to ask Midoriya Izuku to come to my office. The hall was erupted in murmur. Midoriya Izuku? What did he do? Isn't he the one in Deku's here credit? The director, right? Stupid. He's clearly Deku. What? Deku's here? In Yua? Izuku looked at the principal in the eyes, and the principal returned it. He's ready. I heard you have an interest in psychology, Midoriya-kun? Two creatures had sat face to face in the UA's principal's office. The smaller creature was pouring tea to two small cups, and the other was trying to stay calm. Yes, the human boy answered. But it is just a necessary knowledge for my project. The smaller creature excitedly brought his paw together. Yes, your project, the mouse bear creature started. Would you mind to share something about your project? Izuku had predicted this question, so he beamed. I raise awareness for equality. So vague. Yes. And I admire your work. Perhaps, you could tell me more about it? Izuku started his practiced narrative. I'll be happy to. I used to want to be a hero, you see. I still wanted to be, a year ago. But something changed my mind, and I decided to search for another dream. The boy cringed in a reminiscent of a bad memory. Well, my search for a new dream quickly stuck. The jobs that still enable me to save people without quirks apparently require quirk control certificate. Mundane jobs have high rates of discriminatory act against the quirkless. The quirkless also face difficulties in finding even a part-time job, and I soon came to know, in the middle of my study in psychology, that 40% of the quirkless never made it past adolescence due to suicide, with the main reason of those cases being desperation for the future and discrimination. That, if I am being honest, enraged me, and also make me very sad. There is no available job that's satisfying enough for me. I can't have another dream. The boy sighed. That was when I decided my new near-future dream. To save myself and other quirkless people. But then I found out that people with villainous quirks are also discriminated against. It turned out I've got more people to save. The boy shrugged. I studied many things, did many thorough research, compiled a lot of data to prove my point. I voiced them, but it didn't catch attention. So, I started to make quirk analysis video. The perfect way to grab their attention. My videos include how to beat the hero I analyzed, so the hero must see it. That, and the train station incident with Kamui Woods ended up saving all the 24 people involved due to my analysis, was what made my fame skyrocketed. I've got nothing to say anymore, though. That's basically it. The principal sipped his tea, beady eyes contained his curiosity. He then tried to ask the question he longed to ask. What about your recent videos? The boy tilted his head innocently. Which ones? The principal smiled and let the boy play his cute little game. How about your video on the villain rehabilitation facility? The boy frowned. Well, I've got nothing more to say, Principal Nedzu, sir. If you're really curious, you could watch my video and read the article I made that's attached on the description. Oh, I've watched and read it all. But perhaps you could tell me what pushed you to make the video. That's odd. I thought my reason behind the research was written on the background section of the paper? So there is no personal reason behind it? The principal pushed. How could there be? The boy smiled and Nedzu could see why society ate from his palm. My only family is an upstanding citizen while I am quirkless. In the sight of law, I can't even be a proper villain. Some moments passed, and the principal was processing the boy's words. Alright. Then, what do you intend to do? You certainly have a bright future waiting in front of you. Have you figured out what you want to do? UA is famous for our flexible way of teaching. If it means to make some adjustment for your goal and schedule, I know you're quite a busy young man, then I certainly would. Even though I had predicted this question, the answer still won't come to me. Izuku mumbled and finally sighed. I honestly don't know, Principal Sir. I still want to save people. I want to help people not just physically, but their heart too. I know it's impossible for me to be hero, but I honestly couldn't find other suitable jobs for me. Nedzu had speculated that. The boy seemed so eager to be a hero, even when he spoke for the villains. It was what made him so dangerous, after all. He was too heroic. That people didn't really spare him any suspicion when he changed how things were. Those accusations on him being a villain sympathizer was just making his fans stronger and actively defending him. If his goal was only a better life for the quirkless and the villains, then why this approach? He definitely wanted something bigger. The problem was, should Nedzu let him? From what he gathered, all was just for good causes, and his methods brought no harm. Even when advertising everyone should be a hero, he wasn't advertising illegal quirk use. And he held All Might in the highest regard in his videos, even though he spilled something dangerous. Yes, dangerous. No matter how he tried to make it just some kind of a conspiracy theory. Nedzu understood his point though. He himself was suggesting All Might to take teaching jobs so that society adjusts to the inevitable retirement. But I hope I can still take the offer for subjects and schedule adjustment? The boy asked. Nedzu beamed. They had a long discussion about it. In the end, Izuku got Friday afternoon free and some additional subjects added to his study. Hero Ethics with the third year's hero class, Quirk Analysis with Nedzu, Public and Media Control with the second year's hero class, and Urban Warfare? Is there something wrong? Nedzu asked as he raised his cup to take a sip. Izuku then realized that he mumbled the last subject's name out loud. And nothing. Nedzu's eyed him suspiciously but only smiled at the end. Okay then. Off you go. They surely are trying so hard to accommodate you, aren't they? Yeah. I'm satisfied though. But they make you take more subjects than the other first years, and only leaving Friday after lunch to accommodate your outside school activities. Is it really enough? Yes. Principal Nedzu said I'm only obligated to turn in a third of the weekly assignments for any subjects. It's like a month worth of assignment for one semester. I think it's a sufficient room for breathing. Yes, but what about the additional subjects? They didn't make your school time longer, did they? No, I will only get math, history, English and Japanese once a week, so that I could join the additional classes. I think I can manage it. Pity. It seems like you're too busy for our usual lesson. I hope we can still establish a form of communication. Of course, Sensei. Thank you so much for these past months. I had learned a lot. We definitely will meet again. I could use a burner phone? I would still be in need of your advice for my video's content, after all. Excellent. I will send Kurojiri to give you one. Do please be careful with it. They ended the call. While Izuku was still wary of Sensei, they both could recognize any subtle try of manipulation, so they did their best to not manipulate each other, giving the other some room to breathe, while subtly pushing the other to actively return the effort, but of course they both realized it. The best part of their acquaintance, though, was that he had almost succeeded on convincing Tamura Shigaraki to not go on a killing default mode. The foe was a bit amused and sad that his years of conditioning Tamura to like killing in whims could be destroyed by this mere 14-year-old boy. Izuku even gave him anger management tips, and some lip balm. His lips always looked so painful. Now, he had 1 week to plan another video. Sleepy. 16.21. See you tomorrow at lunch? Green bean. 16.58. Yeah. Please bring Gyre to... I have something for her. Izuku scanned the cafeteria. Some of his classmates wanted to sit with him, but he already made plan to sit with Hitoshi and Kyuka. Thankfully, they understood and being considerate. The difference between UA and his middle school was huge. Figuratively and literally. He couldn't find Hitoshi at all. Hitoshi seemed to feel his internal scream, and called him over after spotting him. Midoriya. Over here. Izuku snapped his head to the source. Yeah. Sordash, eh? Why did he sat in a couple table put together side to side? Why were there so many people? Hiding his sigh, Izuku walked to the table while trying to even his breath. It's okay, isn't it? They probably didn't mean any harm. They didn't mean to try to intimidate him to make him join their group, right? This is you. This is you. This is you. He braved himself. Hey. I'm Midoriya Izuku. Pleasure to meet you all. And then several people talked, all at the same time. Izuku grimaced and took his seat between Kyuka and Hitoshi. Kyuka only looked at him guiltily. Sorry? Someone, she eyed Hitoshi, was not being subtle about it, and they recognized our names from the video. They kinda connected the dots when they heard some rumors that Deku's here. They're just excited to see you. That's all right. So you're all on the hero course? That's so cool. He beamed, genuinely this time. A blonde boy with black mark on his hair nodded, obviously pleased by his compliment. Not really, but yeah, probably. I already feel cool. We haven't studied anything hero-like, Karo, someone bluntly stated. And then several people talk all at once again, but only one addressed him directly. Deku, do you take analysis request? We're going to have heroic class after this, so I want to take my chance and ask you. A pink-skinned girl said, which made all of them turn to look at him. Izuku squirmed. Well, I could give you an analysis, but then the others would want it too. And we don't have enough time for everyone. And I still need to see you in action to make a proper analysis. Oh, that's all right. I'll show you my moves next time. The girl laughed lightly, and Izuku thanked her internally for not pushing it. UA is really different. He probably could make some real friends here. Not that he was hoping. It was just a speculation. Then someone caught his eyes. Blue hair, rectangle face. If he could know his quirk. Well, there's no harm in asking. Excuse me, he called the boy. The boy turned his head, along with body, to him. So polite. Can you tell me your quirk name? The boy nodded. Of course Deku was curious about his quirk. My quirk is called Engine. That settled it. Are you related to Ingenium? I'm sorry, but I recognize your facial feature, and I admired Ingenium so much. The boy's chest visibly puffed. Just, I'm Ida Tenya and Ingenium is my brother. Izuku's eyes glinted. That's so cool. Hey, do you think your brother would be okay for an interview? I was hoping to ask him, but he's got so many sidekicks to manage, I couldn't possibly interrupt him from his work. The boy chopped the air. He would be delighted. He's actually waiting for a chance to get your analysis. A brown-haired girl stopped her chopstick midair. Deku, do you always interview the hero you analyze? Izuku shook his head. I didn't before. 3 of my earlier video, including the Kamui Wood one, was without the hero's consent. But I got so many critics because of it. So I decided to ask the hero's permission first, and tried to confirm some of my speculation about their quirk in an interview. The girl nodded her head while munching. So complicated, came her muffled shout. Hey Deku, are you planning to make a video while you're in UA? Another one asked, but he didn't see anyone who asked it. He decided to just answer it while picking at his lunch. Insecurity gesture to the rescue. Well, I'm thinking of touching bullying issue. But I think I would need some help. I can't just throw them my sap stories. I have an idea. This time, it was a red-haired boy with sharp teeth that sat right across him. Why don't you collaborate with someone? I have just the friend for Y-. He moved to point someone, probably his friend in this table, but Izuku tilted his head and stared at the boy curiously. What about you? His question threw him off guard. Huh. Izuku pushed again. Why not you? The boy scratched the back of his head. Oh, the boy looked sheepish and Izuku almost regretted asking him. Almost. I'm not so manly before. I wasn't brave enough to do anything about it when it happened around me, he explained. Izuku thought about it for a minute to let his words sink. That actually could work. I think you could do it, he said to the boy. Huh. The boy looked genuinely confused. Didn't he say he didn't do anything when someone bullied another around him? I think you'll be the perfect guest for my video. Deku stressed it again, and despite his confusion, Kirishima was touched by his words. Whoa bro, really? Izuku smiled at him. This boy looked like in need of encouragement. Yeah, I really think so. Here, give me your number. I'll contact you tonight. We're going to save a lot of people. Kirishima was always soft-hearted. But the way Deku said it, that they would save a lot of people, really touched his soft spot. He couldn't stop the manly tears that were already breaking through. In just his first day on his dream school, he was going to save someone. He would not hesitate again. So manly. In the end, we have to meet after school. Hitoshi's bored tone invited a poke at his arm by Kyuka's earphone jack. Well, whose fault is that? Dragging me to lunch saying he's waiting wasn't the subtlest way, you know? While they were arguing, Izuku was busy searching for something inside his bag. When he finally found it, he pushed it to Kyuka. Gyre here. The girl was star-led, but took it anyway. What's money? And it's so thick. Yeah. That song really made a lot of it, probably. The money from that song hadn't actually came. That money was from the entire earning from the previous month. But, Izuku read it in Boogle. People didn't just make a song and a music video in under a week. It was only because of Kyuka and her parents that wonder could happen and effectively making him more popular than before. I'll add it again if the number increase. Hirschens. That's your part. Thank you. He tried to stay calm but his tone gave away his excitement. With how thick the envelope was, he could visit that cat cafe daily. Kyuka was really speechless. Whoa, we didn't even perform in a concert to promote the song. You're really famous, huh? Izuku blushed. What? In fact, I couldn't be where I'm now without you. I was harshly criticized for some of my videos before Wonder, remember? And Wonder wouldn't happen if it's not because of your and your parents' help. Really feeling the gratitude here, Hitoshi added, which earned an shushed from Izuku. Kyuka was still staring at the money in her hand. It was 3 times thicker than Hitoshi's. Izuku saw it, and he moved before he lost the momentum. I have one more request though. That gained the attention of his 2 new friends. But Izuku only stared straightly at Kyuka. I think you should make more songs like this. Not for me, no, I'm not gonna sing again. It's for the people's heart, Gyre. You want to be hero, don't you? Well, your song could save some people's hearts. I'll help you promote it of course, to keep the money running. I think it's a noble cause. Kyuka blushed. Just thinking about singing and being watched by many people made her want to crawl under a pillow. But, against her shyness, she nodded. Izuku smiled proudly. So, how about you tell me how was your day? That managed to make the both of them groaned. I got electrocuted. I won a battle but lose the only chance for another win. Huh. Hitoshi gestured for Kyuka to start her story first. Yeah. I had Kaminari as a teammate. He just let go 1.3 million volt of electricity at the building, while his teammate, the one who figured out the location of supposed villain, was still in the same floor as him. But 1.3 million volt? He's too strong. People could die if he touched them directly. Kyuka snorted. Yeah, but he immediately turned to an idiot because he fried his brain. And he's not touching anyone, just releasing them where he stood. Izuku was baffled. And he depended on how conductive his environment is and can't control the direction? Basically. And the teacher didn't do something about it? Hitoshi smirked. All Might just told him to be careful next time, since he could injure his hero teammate in the future? Unbelievable. All Might. Was he an idiot this whole time? As all hope flew from Izuku's eyes, Hitoshi and Kyuka snorted. Izuku then shook his head. Do you think Kaminari knows hand-to-hand combat? It took Kyuka no time to answer. No, why? No reason. He shrugged and turned to Hitoshi. What about you? Now Hitoshi sighed. I won, but sacrificing the confidentiality of my quirk. If they figured out how I activate my quirk, which I had already done twice, they'll just avoid the condition. I'll lose forever. Hitoshi never even told Kyuka about how his quirk worked. It was for his only chance in the class. They haven't figured it out yet, but they were close, he added. Izuku contemplated it for a second before started to mutter. His two friends just waited for him to conclude his muttering, no reason to try to hear his mutter now. The words were completely unrecognizable. Shinso. Let's go to my house, he concluded. We'll work on your quirk. Sure, you can have me tomorrow. Kyuka smirked at them. Cool. They were both sitting in Izuku's room. Izuku on his bed, and Hitoshi on his chair. Izuku was thankful he sold almost all of his All Might merch collection for cameras, drones, and laptop. It felt like a big sacrifice before, but now it actually felt like it had saved him from embarrassment. Alright, you have a brainwashing quirk that's voice-based, right? Hitoshi nodded. If they respond to my words, they'll do anything I say that doesn't require any higher function of thinking. Izuku widened his eyes. That's extremely useful. Because they can't think, your order must be specific, and that opens to so many possibilities and lessen unpredictable factors. Is it working like a suggestion too? Could you make the effect last even after they're not in control anymore? I once made someone forget what they were doing when they're in my control. What? Izuku shook his head. Was it because they're in your control and their memory while being controlled only get to the short-term memory, thus making it easier for input failure? Or was it locking the memory to be accessed? No matter what, it still opens many possible ways to use. Izuku shook his head. Oh. Let's talk about that in another day. Izuku managed to gather himself. How do you usually get them to reply to you? He asked instead. I taunt them. I'm good at being a villain, attacking them with words. And? I have no other way. Izuku nodded. That was the problem. He couldn't blame Hitoshi. Almost all heroes depended on the strength of their quirk. We'll change it. First, you could add other tactics. Trying to make a joke in the middle of a fight could annoy them. Picture this. Knock knock? They unconsciously replied, who's there? Or they got mad and respond out of anger. Hitoshi liked the idea. It made him less villainous. It was like that underground hero miss joke, but instead of making them laugh, he made them go zombie. But it wasn't enough. Still, if they're serious in winning, they could just avoid replying me after they know the activation condition. Izuku nodded and went thinking. After a few moments though, Hitoshi decided to add his thought. Actually, I got an idea. Izuku looked up, gesturing him to go on. Today we had a team battle exercise and All Might Sensei told us communication is a must in teamwork. Izuku widened his eyes and Hitoshi continued. If they don't realize it's me, they'll answer you without hesitation. It won't matter if they already know about the activation condition. If they have teammates, you can just take advantage of it. Hitoshi smiled, proud at himself. I am planning to visit the support department to make me a voice changer. My quirk is tricky around electronic, so I need to ask them this early so they can figure it out and make it as soon as possible. Oh, the voice changer definitely should cover your mouth and jaw, so that no one could know it was you who's talking, and the voice should be distributed in some way that people will be confused for where the voice coming from. Hitoshi nodded and wrote Izuku's suggestion. Yeah. I'll tell the support that. Next. Hitoshi asked again. He felt like he took an advantage of his new friend. But he was desperate to be able to compete in his class. Izuku was silent for a moment, thinking loudly in his mutter before finally asked him. I have to ask you, is your activation is automatic after they reply to you? Where did that come from? Hitoshi thought. He decided to answer it anyway without questioning it. I'm not sure. The first condition is always asking them a question. Then, if they reply to it, I immediately feel this tingling feeling in my head. Sometimes they can almost complete a sentence before I take control of them, but sometimes they can't even finish one word. It might or might not be based on my interest for their reply. Or is it my concentration? When Bakugo replied with "shut up" or something along the line, he barely finished the first word, while Ida replied with almost a full sentence. He pondered on it a bit before adding, after they're in my control, that tingling is gone. Izuku nodded. Let's try it then. Ask me a question, then concentrate to hold that tingling feeling as long as you can before you let it go. You sure? Yes. They both waited for Hitoshi's quirk to be activated. Izuku was counting seconds with his finger, and after the 33rd seconds, he felt his mind went fuzzy. Then that feeling was gone. That's 33 seconds, Izuku stated as he realized Hitoshi had let him out of his control. We should train with it so you can hold it a little longer. You should be able to hold it until 3 minutes, at minimum, without concentrating in it too much. What's the point in that? Izuku started to smile and explained. Well, your strategy from before could work in team battle, but if you fight them one-on-one you'll lose. Make them confused about your activation condition. Before you release the tingling, try touching them, making them think it's touch activated, keep an eye contact, or let them finish 2 sentences, to make them think it's the condition. Or sing to them while they can hear you, they'll think you have siren voice or something. That's a great idea. Thanks. Izuku nodded. Yeah, but your support item would be a neon sign for how your quirk work. You should tell your classmate that your support item is just a protection gear so that you can give your target orders. And don't ever get caught while using the voice changer. Manipulate the target's memory into forgetting they ever hear their teammate's voice, if you can. It will be tricky, but if we manage these, you'll be undefeatable. Undefeatable. Someone who couldn't even get 1 villain point in the entrance exam, could be undefeatable. Of course you can't get cocky. You still have so much to train, and even after mastering all that, you have to think that there is someone out there whose quirk is perfect for countering you. Hitoshi brushed off a tear from his cheek. Yes. Thank you. Hey, don't thank me yet. We still have to try some things. He turned to the doorway. Mom? Yes, sweetheart, came the answer. Could you help us for a second? In seconds, Midoriya-san had already stood on the doorway. Hitoshi could see a loving parent when he saw one. His own parents didn't give him much attention, but he guessed it must be genetic. He wasn't an affectionate person too, no matter how much cats he had snuggled. Looking at Midoriya-san, he could see where Izuku's traits coming from. What is it? Mom, I need you to reply Shinsu's question after I reply his question. Okay. Izuku turned to him. Now, Shinso, try to hold the tingling feeling from my activation while activating it to Mom. How did you manage to destroy your tie? Izuku gasped. I did no such thing. Hitoshi turned to ask Midoriya-san. Midoriya-san, his tie looked awful, didn't it? Oh, it sure did, and she stared blankly at nowhere. After a moment, Hitoshi sighed. Your tingling went very faint after I control your mother and I accidentally broke it? Izuku nodded. That's okay. But if it's still there for a moment, then we probably can work on it. It probably just need concentration practice. You can take control more than 1 people at a time, right? Can I? Izuku looked at him in shock. What? You haven't tried it? You should experiment more with you quirk, Shinso. Honestly, you have a powerful quirk Shinso, but don't stuck on one method of using it. I see so many heroes fell into that trap and now they are stuck. If their quirk isn't directly suitable for some situations, they just give up. It's sickening. I mean, they're hero. Why just give up because one way isn't working? That's why you need to experiment with it. Nobody wanted to hang out with me, least volunteer to be taken control of. Well, and his consciousness was gone. And then back. Izuku was stunned. What? Hitoshi smirked. I could still hold the tingling in 33 seconds while having your mom in my control. And, do you remember what you were saying before? Did he said anything? And then it clicked. Yes. You can make them forget things that happened before the control. How does that even work? Is it a planted suggestion to lock the memory? Does it dash? Izuku scrunched his eyebrows mid-sentence, and after a while, he pouted. I got my memory back just after I was thinking about it. That means it's not permanent. Maybe it's based on the strength of your suggestion? We should work on that. Hitoshi agreed. Izuku then beamed. But that just means our plan is solid. And we have even more possible ways to use your quirk. He made a big hand gesture out of his excitement and accidentally poked his mom on the arm, breaking Hitoshi's control over her. Sorry, Mom. His mom just laughed in understanding. That's okay. Do you want some snacks, Shinso? If it isn't troubling. Oh, you're so polite. And then she was gone from their sight. Hitoshi loved Izuku's mom. He probably would die for her. What's next? He asked to Izuku instead. Well, Izuku started, I've got many more theories about your quirk, but I think there's another more pressing matter. If they don't respond to any of your words, and you have to distract them long enough to activate your quirk, or they figure out that you have voice-based quirk and prevent you from talking altogether, or maybe have a quirk that can break free from your control easily, what will you do? If it was Hitoshi from before the practical exam, he would probably answer with leave it to the other pro. But this Hitoshi was not, and he answered with a shrug. If it's a real situation then. Die protecting civilian, I guess? They both sat silent for a while and let the words sink. Izuku knew his friend got into the hero course solely for rescue point. He might have tested him before, but Izuku knew it for sure now. You're a real hero, Shinso. The boy blushed and looked the other way, right hand rubbing the back of his neck. Izuku smiled. That's that. But with that mentality, you won't make it past through your first year. A good hero always has another trick on his sleeves. You can't just depend on your quirk. Izuku leaned teasingly at Hitoshi. Say, Shinso, do you work out? No, some martial arts. It was the beginning of hell for Shinso Hitoshi. Izuku loved his new classmates. Some had a pretty powerful quirk, like Hayato-san with his needle hair. Think of the potential for close and mid-range fight. But most of them had a simple, interesting quirk, like Nakamura-san who had sticky tip finger, really helpful to read a book. Definitely could be a close-range fighter. Or Kagaya-san, finger light that could be focused like a pointer laser. Really useful for presentation and blind. Your eyes. They were not obsessed with flashy quirks, so he got along with them just fine, but they also had some kind of a competitive streak against the hero students. But this was UA, after all. It was to be expected that everyone just wanted to be the best. He was talking with Ogawa-san about the media frenzy in front of the gate this morning when their homeroom teacher boomed in. Yeah. Morning, little listener. It was too early to deal with this cheerfulness. Mike-sensei was never discouraged when they didn't respond to his shout, but it only encouraged them to not respond him, so Izuku felt conflicted. Should he respond or not? Maybe all of his classmates had this dilemma too. Still, Izuku admired Mike-sensei. He was a genuine hero, always trying to lift others' spirit. Maybe Izuku should change his favorite hero from All Might to present Mike? Today we will choose representative and their vice. Choose wisely, yeah. Sensei shouted. Everyone was immediately talking to each other. Some even started to promote their leadership experience. UA never had a student body, so being a class representative was the only way for students to have political power in the school. Being in general course, that power means a lot. And it was equal to having an organizational experience, so it would look good in CV. We should have a vote. Aren't they just gonna vote for the most famous one? Now that's a problem. Izuku cleared his throat, gaining his classmates' attention. First, what about we eliminate who doesn't want the position in the first place? He escaped torture. Jairu. The girl was walking in the cafeteria with a tall black-haired girl and stopped upon her name being called. She turned to see Izuku and Hitoshi sat not far from where she stood. The girls exchanged a few words and soon, Kyuka walked towards Izuku's table alone. Izuku smiled. Hey, do you want to join us? Nah, I'm sitting with the girls. You need something? Izuku nodded in understanding and grabbed a stack of papers on his table. Here. He shoved it to Kyuka. Upon her curious glance, Izuku explained the paper to her. It's my analysis on your quirk. From our talk before, I gathered you had already have a good grasp on your quirk. I wrote some possible applications, your weaknesses and some plans to counter it. We could work on it today. She briefly looked inside. What kind of analysis had multiple diagrams, illustrations, and math equations? Izuku's, apparently. Oh, thanks. She put the paper on her lunch tray and looked at Izuku again. But I don't think I can make it after school. I'm writing some songs with Mom and Dad. Izuku's face fell for a moment. He was looking forward to it the whole day, after all. But he recovered and beamed at the later news. That's great. Good luck with your song. You too with your new, she eyed Hitoshi. Projects? Hitoshi rolled his eyes. Har har. Shinso. Focus. We need to get you in shape by the time of the sport festival. Izuku reminded him, for the thousandth time. I hate you the most right now. The gremlin managed to convince him to meet on the school's yard at 6 in the morning. And he made him run, and push up, and pull up, and other torture methods he could think of. He didn't trust himself anymore. Well, you have noodle arms. We have to fix it. How the hell did you get so ripped? I'm dying just by one exercise. Izuku scrunched his eyebrows. Right, when did that happen? My mother was pushing me to exercise since I mostly spent a whole day in my room, copped out with my projects. Then I started making money, so I buy a membership on a gym, he answered after a moment. The advantage of a celeb. Kyuka smirked. Well, I'll just let you continue your old couple banter. See you around. See you. My allowance wouldn't allow me buy a membership on any gym. Hitoshi sighed, still thinking about his training. Izuku shook his head. That's why you aren't going to one. I'll help you. Besides, we have to accommodate your time correctly so that you could build stamina, speed, and muscle, and working on your hand-to-hand combat skill at the same time. We will need to ask for help for the hand-to-hand combat, though. Also, we have to train your quirk. Honestly, if a little bump could get anyone out of your control, your quirk won't get to nowhere if you fight several enemies at once. And he started to mutter. Mito bro. Someone on the right table interrupted them, and Izuku's and Hitoshi's heads snapped to the source. Kaken. Well, not just Kaken. There were other people in Kaken's table, and the one who's calling Izuku was one of them. Hi Kirishima. Thanks again for your ideas. You really helped, you know? The boy grinned. Heh, no problem. You can count on me. Oh, that's right. What day will we make the video? Kaminari here is asking me to hang out, but I still don't know when we will film it. Izuku tilted his head to the right. He thought he already tell him the day. Then he realized. Oh, I just said weekend in my text, didn't I? Me and my mom only refer Sunday as weekend since my Saturdays now are always full with schedule. The life of a celeb dash. You should come by my house at 10, I would have got everything prepared by then. Cool. Izuku gave a peek to Kaken's direction, but the boy seemed keen to ignore his existence. Izuku was really fine with that. Really, he was fine. Okay, maybe, just maybe, he might have been worried about Kaken? Kaken Katsuki. Remember his name is Katsuki, Izuku. He's not your friend, had been angry when he started the channel and got some acknowledgement. He told Izuku to stop the creepy analysis every day. But, since he started the new playlist, his real project to his new dream to change the society, Kaken Katsuki. Get it in your head, Izu, had been distancing himself. Perhaps he wanted to change? Izuku didn't want to hope, but he really wanted to help if that was really the case. That's why he wanted to make the bully video as soon as possible. So, Hitoshi started, breaking his train of thought. What's on Saturday? Izuku chopped his katsudon and munched it. Quirkless Footwear is opening a store in Hosu next week. I have to take some shots and do some promotion. I forgot you're a part-time model. Hitoshi smirked. But really, Why is there has to be a brand of shoes for the quirkless? Our foot is slightly different than quirk people. We could still just use normal shoes, but it's all about comfort. Quirkless footwear just feel more comfortable. Hitoshi pondered for a moment. The color has nothing to do with it, right? Izuku tilted his head. What do you mean? Well, your shoe's color is a very bright red. Izuku widened his eyes by the implication. No. It's just my preference. I grew up using a shoe similar to this and I just like it. And about what you were implying, the boy shuddered. Thankfully, the discrimination hasn't reached that point yet. If this brand aimed to ostracize quirkless people with shoes, then I would never be their brand ambassador. Its aim is to promote comfort for the quirkless. Hitoshi raised his hands in a give-up manner. Sorry to assume. I just saw some posts that have that quirkless proud hashtag you made, and everyone was wearing a pair of similar bright red shoes. Now I know they're just your fans. Izuku blushed. I've got one more question though. Are there a lot of quirkless people in Hosu? Izuku nodded. Quirkless people are rare these days, that's why. Quirkless Footwear is such a small company and only opens a store in Tokyo. But I've done some research. It turns out, a number of people suddenly lost their quirk in Hosu and the cities around it in the last 5 decades, causes unknown. Though in this decade the case has lessened. But the loss of quirks damaged their quirk factor, so their children are more likely to be quirkless. He definitely didn't figure it out when he tried to search Sensei's real whereabouts. But, after knowing that, Izuku couldn't help but wondering. Did Sensei take some of his ancestors' quirk? Is that why he's now quirkless? Hitoshi was silent for some time. While his quirk was a pain to the butt to live with, he would still prefer that than no quirk at all. It seemed way harsher. I'll sure be avoiding Hosu. Don't worry. In the past 10 years, quirk loss cases became equally distributed in every city. Like they had a warper and distance became insignificant, his thoughts went unsaid. Of course his reassurance only made his friend worry more, but Izuku failed to notice it. Honestly, after researching about it, Izuku felt foolish. Sensei's operation was probably based on Hosu in those past decades, but sometime around his fight with All Might, he probably changed his base's location. And with Kurogyri covering their track right from the beginning of their base change, it's practically impossible to trace them. They could be seen appearing in the side of the country only to be seen again at the other side of the country in less than 1 hour. His thoughts was interrupted again, this time by a blazing alarm sound across the cafeteria. Izuku and Hitoshi looked around to see people panicking. What's security breach number 3? Someone asked. It means the school is infiltrated. With that being said, everyone moved to the emergency exits simultaneously. Not a good idea, of course. Izuku chose to stay on his seat, making Hitoshi, who was already standing, confused. You're not evacuating? Izuku shook his head. And risk getting stepped on? No thanks. Besides, infiltration attack is the most complicated one, especially in a place with crazy high security like UA. They need to lay low. It's either the attacker infiltrate in low number to hide, or laying low only long enough to bring many people at once. If this case is the first, then we need not to worry, either they'll avoid us, or attack us in low number and your quirk can be effective. If it's the latter, then they'll need to use a big gate to break in, which is far from where we are, unless they had a warper to transport lots of people at once. His thought was once again left unsaid. Izuku turned and saw Shinso was already continuing his lunch. You lost yourself in your mutter again, he stated in the middle of munching his food. Everyone, it's only the press. We don't need to panic. We're students of UA. Let's act appropriately in the face of crisis. The voice boomed from the hall and a smirk grew in Hitoshi's face. Our vice rep to the rescue. He still has a stick up on his ass though. It's only after lunch Izuku started to think that there was something wrong. How the hell did the press manage to infiltrate UA? It was cold outside and Hitoshi just wanted to sleep. Sensei just had to have an outdoor class today. Last night, Izuku suggested that keeping someone in control and maintaining the tingling feeling while doing demon-level mathematic problems could make his control more automatic. Hitoshi was thrilled in the prospect of not having to concentrate too much while activating his quirk, But Izuku's mathematic level was insane. He guessed it was how Kaminari feel when he fried his brain. Think of the demon and he shall appear. Midoriya? The boy was walking airily towards his class. Why did he have such a good a mood? Did he want to make his day hell again? Hey Shinso. The boy beamed. He should have never trusted that sunshine smile. What are you doing here? Then came the crowd. Hey, that's Deku. Midobro. Hey Deku, can I be in your video next time? Darkness will preserve the light. Fumi likes you. Dark Shadow. Aizawa-sensei of course couldn't accept this noisiness. He brought everyone attention as soon as he stepped into sight. He's Izuku Midoriya from 1C. The principal asked him to be here to make an analysis out of your quirk. Focus on the lesson and don't bother him. Class rep, manage you class to the bus. You're going on a field trip? The vice rep ended up making too much fuss about the seating arrangement, but after a while, they took their respective seat and the class was back on their dynamic. The usual chaos. Izuku was having his day. He couldn't believe that the principal's first analysis lesson would be a real-time analysis. Of course, there would be much more potential in analyzing a hero in training's quirk than analyzing a hero's quirk that had been trained for years. Hitoshi was glancing suspiciously at him here and there, but he didn't care. He was so going to tear apart their quirk. Not even Keisi Katsuki rejection of him could ruin his mood. Midoriya-san. Izuku jumped in his seat. He turned to see a girl with green straight hair was staring at him. Twice? Dash. Call me Tsu. What is it? I watched your video on Endeavor. Way to be blunt. Yes. I got many critics about it. It turned out, no matter how disagreeable Endeavor is, many people still like him. Kirishima, who was sitting beside the girl, chimed in. Well yeah, he's the number 2 hero after all. It's all because of his flashy quirk, said someone. Huh, the mark on his hair looked like a lightning. Was that perhaps that Kami-san? Izuku shook his head. No, don't misunderstood. His villain apprehension rate is the highest this past 4 years, with Hawk somewhere behind him. What about All Might? Izuku thought there was no harm in trying to educate them. Well, All Might's villain apprehension rate has already fallen since those 4 years. From what I gathered, people caught sight of him less and less each year. Maybe he's starting to think to retire. Aizawa snapped his eyes open at the words of the new addition to his field day class. The boy that had become Nedzu's new plaything. The boy's analysis was spot on as usual, since All Might was indeed weakening, but that just made the boy more dangerous. He was never into the recent trend, so he didn't know about the boy that much, but his movement changed something in the underground. He still couldn't really sure what the exact thing that changed, but something subtle had changed. It might take some time for his effect to become more noticeable, but it's there. And then there's the song that Namuri and Hizashi sang all the time. He hated the boy for that song. Bold and factual the boy's words were, his class still voiced their disagreement. He had expected it, full of sunshine and unicorns their mind was. So illogical. What? You can't just say that. He's the symbol of peace. I remember you said that in another video, Karo. I did. But that will be another topic of conversation. The point is, Endeavor's rank is not just because of his flashy quirk. His quirk is just producing fire after all. He doesn't even have that much fine control of the fire, which is why his legal team has to be fierce to defend the hero. He burned people a lot. But he made that quirk effective to apprehend villain. That's why he's number 2. Unfortunately, he contributes a lot in the nowadays view of society. He's an ambitious hero, alright. The principle is the stronger, the better. Just look at his sidekicks with their strong quirks. Society follows his example because he's the number 2 hero and he's only number 2 in his and the public's eyes because All Might is stronger than him. And that's why he's got an attitude of a burning pile of trash. Hitoshi decided to add, which made Izuku gasped. Shin, so, you can't just tell people that? He hushed. I quoted you verbatim from that time though? Are me and Jiru not people? He turned to stare blankly at the back of the bus. Oops, I forgot. Morning, Todoroki. Todoroki? Kirishima smashed his fists. Well, strong quirk huh? I got a strong quirk, but I probably won't stand out much. If we're talking about strong and flashy, it's Bokugu and Todoroki. We didn't talk about strong and flashy quirk, though, Karo? Bokugu will never be famous, though. He's got the personality of steaming piece of a sewage. What did you say? See? Tsu added. I'll fight you all. Kisasuke was being teased? Was this an alternate universe? Quiet. We're here. The first sight after coming down the bus was a huge dome, with its surface reflecting the sunlight. Izuku would have had speculating what the hero students were going to do in such place if there was no hero with black hole quirk standing in the middle of the entrance door. That's the space hero, 13. Izuku's head snapped at the girl who had shouted it simultaneously with him. The girl blushed. I'm Uraraka. Do you like 13 to Deku-kun? Yeah. The hero was giving them a welcoming gesture, arms opened widely at the sides. Everyone, welcome to the Universal Studio of Japan? The unforeseen simulation joint. 13 was going to explain something at them, probably a pep talk before they do some hero stuff, and that only pumped Izuku up even more. But then, Izuku felt someone walked straight towards him. It was the one as mysterious homeroom teacher, Aizawa-sensei. He openly used his real name, so he was probably hiding his hero identity. True though, Izuku had watched several Underground Heroes videos that got leaked, but Aizawa-sensei didn't match any of them. That means he was more careful than those heroes. True though, not many use the capture weapon, so he's either Midoriya. YS, Aizawa-sensei? The man nodded at a direction. Go to the center plaza. There will be a screen projection you can use to monitor every simulation. It's by the fountain. Right. Of course. He was no hero student. How could he forget? Okay. He began to run a bit to the fountain. He probably didn't have to run to get there, but he was so embarrassed of himself for forgetting that he was just there to analyze the real hero students. Before, in a moment, he felt like one of them. Like a hero in training. Stupid Deku. 13 was still giving the class his talk when Izuku arrived at the fountain. Because there was no bench near enough to the fountain, he decided to sit cross-legged on the ground, waiting for some hologram to appear. The light flickered for a second, and Izuku thought the hologram was going to appear. But it didn't. Instead, there was a familiar dark fog, forming precisely at the center of the fountain. No. The fog only got bigger no matter how hard Izuku pleaded internally. Aizawa-sensei? He desperately shouted. We have a situation. A fucking situation. The gate had opened and some people began to appear from it. Mutation quirk, emitter, transformation, mutation quirk. There was no one he could recognize. No quirk he had known. And then a white-haired figure came to view. Mutilated hands surrounded his body. Shigaraki-san. Where's All Might? Tamura asked upon arriving at the game site. His eyes were busy staring at the distance, where only two heroes and some NPCs gathered. But a ragged breath could be heard from somewhere close, and after he looked down, straight at someone who was in the middle of raising from sitting position, both of them froze. Player, why are you here? Player, why are you here? Izuku gulped hard, mind wandering everywhere. Why is Shigaraki-san here? What should he do? Should he talk him out of it? No, it would expose him. Shigaraki-san is smart enough to hide their association, right? Right? Midoriya, get away from there. Aizawa-sensei's voice could be heard from afar, but Izuku couldn't really pay attention to him. No, his eyes were locked to the villain he had come to know this past months. No, sensei. Don't worry about me. Worry about yourself. He's a psycho with anger issue and you're the hero. His target is you. Kurojiiri was stunned to see Izuku there. They hadn't been aware that another student from outside the hero course would be there. But Izuku was smart, and they planned to leave the kids unharmed, so Izuku would be safe. He must be safe or else Sensei would have his head on the platter for making his investment wasted. The biggest hiccup in the plan was there was no sight of All Might. He must find out why. Appearing in front of all of the scared kids, Kurojiiri hovered above the ground and tried to be polite. Greetings. We're the League of Villains. We're here to make All Might retire because we heard All Might would be here, but perhaps there is a change of schedule? Two of them took that chance to attack him. Was it something he said? Luckily, none of them managed to make even the smallest dent on his metal. But still, that was close. I'm ordered to not let you intervene, so, farewell. He opened many gates across the facility and sent many of the children to be dealt with the villains they brought, and left some and 13 there so he could deal with them. 13's quirk was Black Hole, and with that, they could kill Tamura's cannon fodder easily. While having the hero kill the villains was the big plan, their presence today was mainly to announce their existence, and they couldn't have their names smudged by body counts so early in the game. It was the perfect plan. Pity All Might had to ruin it. Tamura was never a patient guy. There were only a few things in the world that could worth his weight, like All Might's death. And Deku's hesitance was definitely not one of them. Why are you here, player? Tamura asked again. By some time. Someone must be in their way to alert the heroes, right? He just had to buy some time so that Shigaraki-san doesn't hurt anyone. If I answer you, will you answer me? They both had a stare down before Tamura gave in. Tisk, sure. Izuku let out a heavy breath. Here goes nothing. If you recognize me, you'd probably know by now that I'm Deku, and I like to analyze quirk. I'm supposed to analyze the hero course student's quirk. Your turn. Who are you and why are you here? Tamura looked at him like he was some kind of an idiot. Why would he need to ask his name? That's pointless. We're here to test our Nomu. He ignored the second question. Nomu? The tool to make All Might retire. That was the plan. But what tool? Why didn't anyone inform him about it? What kind of tool did they have to make All Might retire? How did they get it? Of course he knew Sensei hid many things from him, but to hide the tool to make All Might retire? Why did they hide it from him? In his confusion, Tamura grinned in glee. The brat didn't know everything about Sensei's and his plan, after all. Tamura was still Sensei's successor. Not kill, right? His grin was now gone. Sensei had forbid it. Because of the plan. His perfect plan made him wait to kill All Might. But that's okay. He must defeat the final boss first. That's okay. Great. Can I just stay away? I'm not a hero student. Deku eyed him with uncertainty, and it was just then that Tamura realized. This brat couldn't fight even for his life. His only worth was his QTube channel. No wonder Sensei only trusted Tamura about all of his plans. Tamura was pleased. Just watch, player. With that, Izuku made a large distance between the villain and himself. Still, with that unstable mental and poor anger management, Shigaraki-san could kill someone just because. Izuku had to have an eye on him. Midoriya. Tamura and Izuku both turned to the source of the shout. It was 1A's homeroom teacher, and Izuku responded automatically with "I'm okay, Sensei." And now both of them watched the hero fight against more than a dozen of villains. After seeing the mysterious 1A's homeroom teacher's fight though, it became so obvious now. He's Eraserhead. He knew it. He's so underground that even his sport festival's clip in his time on UA had been erased from everything. There were only 2 or 3 clips that had him on it, and he barely made a glimpse. But that capture weapon and that Google. Why didn't he notice him before? God, and now he's watching the Eraserhead fight. It's the best day of his life. Eraser beat our guys like flies. And Izuku nodded excitedly. Of course. He's dashed. The hair on the back of his neck stood and Izuku turned to see Shigaraki-san glared at him. I mean, he's a hero. And he has his students to protect. So yeah. Of course he's determined. Tamura decided to let it slip. The brat knew better than start to gush about heroes in his presence. If he did it again though. Just the thought of it made him dash. 1 kill. 2 kills. 3 kills. 4 kills. His breath evened once more. Tamura watched Eraserhead's fight instead. And then, something made him laugh. Maniacally, of course, because when was it not? I can't see it clearly because he's always moving. But his hair gave away his cool down time. He whispered eerily, and Izuku felt cold all over his body. Am I right, player? Izuku dared not to answer. But Tamura didn't need his answer. He ran straight towards the hero. Eraserhead was just kicking off one last villain that surrounded him, But then the hand villains started to move quickly to him. Eraser put on his stance. Final boss. And then they fight. In combat skill, Izuku could see that Eraserhead was far better than the other. Shigaraki-san received blow by blow each time they made contact. But Shigaraki-san had tenacity. And no matter how easily he could be manipulated, he was actually pretty smart. And that's where Eraserhead lose. Soon, Eraserhead managed to shook Shigaraki-san's off, but only for him to get back at it again with no second to spare, and precisely in that moment, Eraserhead's hair was down. And 5 fingers was down on Eraserhead's elbow. Izuku won't have that. He quickly moved to save Eraserhead. Don't overestimate yourself, Izuku had bended the pinky finger of the hand that was going to decay Eraserhead's elbow. He pulled Eraserhead away from the villain and made some distance. You have 5-finger activation condition. You can't use your quirk on that hand now. He yelled at Shigaraki-san. This again? While Tamura was mourning in pain for his pinky, Izuku turned to Eraserhead. Eraserhead, are you alright? Midoriya, get away from here. Are you alright? TSK. This boy. Aizawa tried to move his arm, and found that he still could. If Midoriya hadn't come though. Now was not the time. I can still move my arm. It's just sting a little bit. Now get away. Another villain approached him from his right and Eraser kicked him away. His breath ragged, his elbow stung, and more villains attacked him. He dodged down and away from one, only to dodge another from beside. The leader let out a breathy laugh. Your quirk isn't suited for fighting many people in a long battle. It's different from the usual sneak attack where you're so good at, huh? But you still jumped in to save your student? When he finally beat all the villains near him using his scarf, he turned to face the leader who's standing alone. Midoriya was no longer in sight. That means he had run to safety. But the villain's eyes shone, making him creeped out. You're so cool. So cool. Izuku rolled his eyes hearing this. He couldn't gush about the heroes, but Shigaraki-san could? But hero, Eraser felt something behind him and turned to see a shadow that loomed over. Something that came out of nightmares, big, purplish, brain bird monster stared him back. I'm not the final boss. And he was in pain all over. The monster was strong enough to make him stay laid on the ground, and when he tried to use his quirk, the monster slammed his head. Eraser felt something flowed on his face, and he knew it was blood. He was already dizzy from it. Izuku watched in horror as the creature, Nomu, beat Eraserhead to the ground without effort. Without thinking, his feet moved on his own. Stop. He took a stand between Shigaraki-san and the Nomu, eyes wide and pleading. His arms were shaking as he spread them, a gesture he unconsciously learned to protect the others. That's the tool to make All Might retire, right? Then you must stop. Tamura restrained himself from scratching his neck. Player, you have to stop intervening or I might lose control and attack you. Nomu's here is a bioengineered weapon. Of course I must test it on a cool hero. But you saw it already. It worked. Just let him go. Tamura smirked. It was good to feel in charge above the brat. Ah, I thought you would understand. We're here to break people's trust for hero, so we have to show them that they're not undefeatable. But they'll just blame you. They'll just blame you. Don't hurt him anymore, please. Aizawa would be lying if he said he wasn't scared for his own life, but the problem child just made his fear went haywire by putting himself in danger for him. Wasn't the problem child smart enough to understand the situation? A villain attack couldn't be handled by talk them out of it. They could hurt all of them, they could hurt him. He couldn't live with that. And so, with every power he had left and every bit of pain in his head, he raised his head to see the problem child's back and tried to call him and hopefully, talk some sense to him. Keyword being tried. Midoriya dash. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Shigaraki-san threw a tantrum, scratching neck and breathing hard. Of course, Izuku had predicted this, but there was nothing he could do to stop it. Tantrum wasn't meant to be paid any attention, after all. He just had to wait until his tantrum finished before he said anything again. It would buy some time. Unfortunately, in the middle of all, a dark fog appeared. Shigaraki Tamura. Kurogyri. Tamura immediately calmed, which made Izuku cringe. There goes plan A to buy time. Have you beat 13? Kurogyri answered truthfully. He's out of commission. But one of the kid managed to escape. Tamura was not calm. Kurogyri, I might just turn you to dust if you're not the warp gate. Izuku was relieved by the news, but tensed at the same time because of all the scratching Shigaraki-san did. And he thought that tantrum from before was bad. Shigaraki-san continued to scratch, and heat wait. His neck was never this red. Was this it? Was everyone going to be killed? Arg, it's game over. We've come this far, but it's game over instead. We can't win against a dozen pro heroes. Shigaraki-san finally said. After processing his words, Izuku came to a revelation. They're going to live? Since All Might isn't here, we just have to hurt the hero in here real bad, don't we? Too soon. Bad Izuku. Shigaraki Tamura. He yelled, making both of the villains turn to focus their attention on him. Eraserhead is already bleeding from his head. It's already bad enough, don't you think? Tamura stood in smugness. I don't know. Maybe we can crush some of his bones? That did it. If you do that, Izuku shouted, leaving no room for interruption with how firm his voice was. If you do that, I'll turn this society on you. They'll never see your reason. Tamura was silent for a while before he spoke again. What if I just kill you? Izuku gave him a fiery glare. Go ahead. My death will only make them hate you more. No one will listen to you. That's what you want, isn't it? To be heard so that things can change? I have the power to be heard, maybe I can help you. They stared each other for a while, eyes communicating something only both of them understand. And then, Tamura spoke, without his casual bite on his tone. You don't understand. Words mean nothing if these heroes are still acting like they're undefeatable. We need to crush them to crush the public trust in them. Izuku shook his head. No, you don't. There are plenty other ways. If you could just listen to me, I'll dash. A booming voice suddenly echoed through the facility. I'm here, had been screamed, getting through the hearts of the scared students, announcing the arrival of the symbol of peace. The hero. I guess we can continue the game then. Tamura stated and turned to Deku. Player. Move your precious teacher from here. Nomu, make Eraserhead unconscious? He couldn't have the pro-hero intervening after all. The second Nomu managed to slam Eraserhead's head again, All Might had beaten the last lousy villain standing and arrived at the center where they stood. He shoved the Nomu off Eraserhead and carried him away to Izuku. Young Midoriya, the hero, addressed him. Go to the entrance door and take Aizawa with you. He needs medical attention. Izuku nodded, but before he left the hero with the villains with uncertainty, he glanced back to the hero. He didn't want All Might to retire yet. All Might. That Nomu. It's bioengineered to beat you. He's naturally so strong that Aizawa-sensei's quirk didn't work to him. You must dash. Young Midoriya. Don't worry. All Might cut him with a smile and Izuku froze. That smile was supposed to ease victims. But looking at it up close just now, Izuku noticed it clearly. It was forced. No worries. Even though the man had no time left, a weak spot on his side that could easily be exposed and take advantage of, also a crazy strong opponent, the hero expected him to not worry. You're right. Izuku just did what he was told and moved Eraserhead from the battle scene. They wouldn't kill him anyway. The hero could act like that all his want, making everyone depend on him instead of working together. Izuku wanted the hero to listen to him, but would he really listen to him? The hero was so busy because of the burden of the world that he put on his shoulder by himself, that he didn't want to listen to his worry and suggestion to help him. Just because he would eventually win the fight, doesn't mean those don't worries were justified. People should worry. It's an emotion that made human humane. Who wouldn't worry for their loved ones? Who wouldn't want to help their loved ones? Izuku moved on, tears trickling on his cheeks. After the boy has gone, All Might smiled to the villain. The villain with exposed brain must be the bioengineered Nomu, the one designed to beat him. Vina. Carolina smash. Nomu. Tamura ordered. All Might made a strong gush of wind from the air pressure of his attack, and was shocked that the villain took his attack and didn't stagger even for a bit. If that didn't work, he then gave all his power to land some punches on the villain. While he received the villain's punch, the hero saw an opening to land a punch on the villain's face. Still it didn't move. A punch in the face didn't work too? Then. This. He put the villain on a lock and smashed him to the ground. And something grabbed his stomach hard. The hero then realized that the villain's head never met the ground. It went through a portal, sending it straight under his stomach. He felt some iron on his tongue, and he could see his work shirt had turned to red in the concerning area. Shit. You think that will work? Great job, Kurogyri. Leave the show to me now. The hand villain spread his arms wide, eyes hidden beneath a mutilated hand deliriously peeked through. His rough voice pushed to fill the USJ with his message. You see, brats, he began. This is your symbol of peace. He is not undefeatable. In fact, Kurogyri can just kill him anytime. Nomu, pull All Might towards the gate. Hear me out. If Kurogyri closed the gate around All Might, what do you think will happen? Mutilated and died, that's what would have happened to him. A series of explosions boomed straight to them. Not on my fucking watch. Ice began to spread on the floor, directly to the Nomu and froze him just enough for All Might to break away from the grasp. A red-haired teen jumped at Tamura and only missed him by a half-second. Damn it. I hasn't showed off yet. I heard you talking about making All Might retire and all that, the Ice One spoke. You think the symbol of peace could be beaten by the likes of you? The ruffian was pointing his palm straight to Kurogyri's metal. Oi shitty fog. You've got a real body underneath that fog, don't you? That's why you said it was close before. Don't move, or I'll explode you to pieces. What a nuisance. The NPCs are supposed to keep the brats from intervening. Nomu. The monster villain broke away from the ice by mutilating itself, and the missing limbs immediately started to grow back. All Might's eyes widened. His quirk isn't shock absorption. I didn't say it's his only quirk. This is super regeneration. Tamura bragged. Nomu was made 100% to beat you. He's an efficient mutation result. He turned to the ruffian. First we're going to free our transport. Nomu. Not even in a second, a fog of dirt appeared and the villain had thrown someone to the wall afar. Kirishima and Todoroki saw in horror as their classmate being thrown, only hoping that the boy didn't. Bakugo! Kirishima called after realizing that their classmate was still with them. You dodged that? Not me, you idiot. The fog cleared, and a silhouette could be seen. All Might was dirty from the dirt, and he had some scratches. But he was standing. All Might! Kirishima shouted. All Might ignored the children to look straight to the villains. Don't you know how to hold back? Hold back? Why should I know you'll save the boy. You're a good hero after all. But hero, I was only doing it for my friend. That rabid boy is going to explode him, you know. Is it so wrong to save a friend? I'm mad, you know. The world divided us into hero and villain. They allowed you to beat us into submission using your quirk, while we get punished for using us. What symbol of peace? Heroes just promotes violence. They didn't give us another choice. You said that, but all you do is hurting these kids. The villain grinned triumphantly. Ask them. The hero's eyebrow twitched. In confusion, and it only made Tamura's grin wider. The villain started. Ask them if our people hurt them. We isolated them to keep them away from the real fight, but they choose to be here, to beat us. We chose to be here because you're going to kill All Might, the Ice One said. Tamura pointed his finger at the brat. No, you choose to be here because you see heroes beat us down every day in your television and you follow their example. The villain then yelled. Besides, we aren't going to kill All Might. We're going to make him retire, before you rudely interrupted us. With the villain becoming madder by the second, and All Might's time running out, the hero finally took a step. Young Todoroki, young Bakugo, young Kirishima, it's okay. Leave it to the pro. Stay away from the fight. You were in a tight place before and only came out because of us. Todoroki pointed out. Yeah, but now, the hero had disappeared from where he stood. Watch how a pro works. All Might and the monster villain were exchanging punches. Blow by blow, the air pressure became stronger, and they who watched simply got carried by the wind away from the fight. The display of power stunned the kids. Boxing match? Seriously? Tamura was getting irritated by the wind and wanted the hero to just die already. Tisk, didn't I say it has shock absorption? You said it's a shock absorption and not nullification, right? The hero voiced his thoughts in the middle of the fight. Then there must be a limit how many shock he can afford. Those who watched couldn't tell, but All Might could. The monster was getting slower. A pro hero is someone who turns any situation. Villain, have you heard this words? Go beyond. He took a stance for his last punch, putting all of his will in it. Plus Ultra. The Nomu had been sent flying through the roof, and with that, the USJ shook. The hero stood his ground, chest puffed, shoulder wide. Now, villain. Let's not waste our time anymore. Step up. And All Might smiled. Tamura hated it. He couldn't accept this. There was no way that fate could. Sensei said so. You. Cheater. You're supposed to be weaker. Sensei said so. Shigaraki Tamura. Calm yourself. He's already exhausted. We could beat him now. Tamura snapped. We can't. I don't have all of my gear. That player broke my finger. Arg. He couldn't beat All Might with one hand. He was smart enough to know that. 1 kill. 2 kills. 3 kills. 4 kills. No. It's okay. We've completed one of our objective. He is weaker. He got time. No time to waste on the NPC. His final boss was the society. Kurogyri, let's go home. Don't forget the cannon fodder. He said instead. The fog was shocked a bit by this maturity, but quickly recovered and started to open the gates across the USJ. Before leaving, Tamura gave a parting word. All Might, we won't kill you, not yet, Sensei had forbid it. But your symbol of peace is fake, so you must retire. Until that happens, we're not planning to stop. With that, all the villains that wasn't immobilized escaped, and the other teachers arrived just a second too late to stop them. This is Detective Tsukachi, recording 5 of the USJ attack incident. Tell us your name, age, and role in the incident. I'm Uraraka Ochako, 14, and I was one of the kids that didn't get sent to anywhere, stayed to help 13, and helped Itakuin to escape. Truth. Shinso Hitoshi, 14, I got sent to Shipwreck Zone, and I stayed at that zone until the villains escaped. Truth. Can you tell us what happened in that zone? I was sent straight to the water, along with Azui-san and Mineta. Azui-san managed to get us out of the water onto the ship. Since the villains surrounded us in the water, we couldn't escape through it, so we must escape through air. Truth. Why didn't you? The villains said they're not going to hurt us unless we're trying to escape. Azui-san could and offered to carry us and jumped away from the ship to the land. But, since the villain's plan was to make us stay on the ship, I gathered that the villain could have a quirk to prevent us from going away through air. Pulling us to fall or something. It could really endanger us since there was a villain with a shark quirk. To escape, we need to use a distraction so they couldn't prevent us to escape. Unfortunately, no one in that zone had that kind of flashy quirk. Truth. What about you? It's stated here that you have brainwashing quirk? Yes. But my activation condition is tricky. Use it too often in front of many people and they could avoid the activation condition after they figure it out. There were 12 villains on the water surface, not counting the ones that stayed underwater. Too many people for it to be effective. Truth. And the result of your plan? The villains left before we could think of any distraction. We're all unharmed. Truth. This is Detective Tsukachi, recording 15 of the USJ attack incident. Tell us your name, age, and role in the incident. Todoroki Shudo. 14. I was sent to the landslide zone and captured 11 villains. I helped All Might escape from the monster villain's grip. Truth. Do you know anything that could be used to identify the villain in the center plaza? The one in charge is a man with white hair and mutilated hands. He is called Shigaraki Tamura. The monster villain is called Nomu, big, dark purple almost black, bird-like beak, and exposed brain. The warp is called Kurogyri, dark purple fog with yellow eyes and metal armor on his neck. Truth. And did you interact with them? Yes. Truth. Can you tell us anything about the interaction? They repeatedly said that they didn't want to hurt the children and they want to make All Might retire. The leader said it, The villain in the landslide zone said it, the fog said it too. Truth. Did they tell you why they want to make All Might retire? The leader said it's because the symbol of peace is fake. Truth. Is there anything you could add more? Yes. The fog also said that they heard All Might was going to be there, that was why they attacked the USJ. Truth. Do you know how they heard it? No. Truth. Jirakyuka. 14. I got sent to Mountain Zone with Kaminari and Yaoyorozu. Truth. What happened in your zone? The villains said they weren't going to hurt us. We stayed silent for a while until Yaoyorozu suddenly pulled out some cloth and tell Kaminari to release his quirk. We almost escape, but Kaminari turned into an idiot because the backlash of his quirk, and one villain that managed to escape his attack hold him hostage so that we can't escape. Truth. Did the villain hurt anyone? No. He held Kaminari in hostage and after a while, a dark fog appeared and he escaped with 8 others, since they had managed to recover from Kaminari's attack. Truth. Did they use their quirk? Besides the warp fog, no. Truth. Can you tell us the description of the villains that escaped? The one held Kaminari hostage wore some kind of mask so we couldn't see his face. He's not a mutant type so I can't figure out his quirk. Many of the other villains have mutant quirk. One looked like a green goblin, one is very short with black costume, one has blue skin, one has red skin, one with lizard quirk. That's all I can say. Truth. Thank you. This is Detective Tsukachi, recording 21 of the USJ attack incident. Tell us your name, age, and role in the incident. Midoriya Izuku. 14. I was in the Central Plaza when the villain arrived. Truth. Can you tell us? What happened? He recognized me and asked why I was there. I tell him I would answer him if he answer me. He agreed. Truth. How did he recognize you? He didn't say. But I'm pretty well known through my YouTube channel, so he might be one of my subscriber. Was that a lead? Truth. Yes. Thank you. Now, what did you tell him and what did you ask? I told him I'm Deku and like to analyze, and I was there to do some analysis. I asked him who he was and why he was there. He only answered the second question, say he was there to test a tool to make All Might retire, the Nomu. Truth. Did the villain hurt you? No, I was left alone until I myself chose to interfere. I interfered twice. The first was when the villain used his quirk on Aizawa-sensei. I gathered he had 5-finger activation quirk, so I broke the pinky finger of the hand he wanted to use to hurt sensei. The second interference was when the fog came and told him the heroes are coming, and since All Might wasn't there. He wanted to hurt Aizawa-sensei real bad. So I tried to talk him out of it, tried to buy some time. And then All Might came and told me to bring Aizawa-sensei out since he needed medical attention. So I left. Truth. Do you know why they want All Might to retire? They said they want to crush the public trust on heroes. They were going to prove that heroes aren't undefeatable. Truth. Do you know how they got the information that All Might was going to be there? I have a suspicion. Truth. Go on. The media infiltration from before, they probably used it as a distraction to get information. It could be one of the villain using the warp gate to get in, or an insider that works for them, to retrieve the information. Truth. Do you know who the insider is? No. Truth. Thank you. I got one last question for you, Midoriya-san. Do you work for them? No. Truth. Today was the day of the raid, and All for One couldn't wait to see the result of his move. The Nomu he sent with Tamura shouldn't have any problem in helping him to accomplish his objectives. It was a pretty strong one, even though it wasn't as strong as the high-end Nomus the doctor working on. Still, no matter how strong the Nomu was, the raid wouldn't have any casualty. They wouldn't kill anyone. The demon of the underground world wouldn't kill anyone in an open attack for some time. Really, the world should thank Izuku for that. The pure-hearted, naive Izuku. He really thought that changing society could be done without hurting anyone. He saw the world as it is, but still he couldn't see how thick the lens of society had become. Knocking it wouldn't do it, no. They had to break it. All for One hoped Izuku would realize that soon. All for One felt space distortion behind his seat, and he grinned in satisfaction. If the leaders of the attack managed to escape, then the heroes had failed. He would love to see the look on those heroes' face. Sensei, His successor raspy voice called to him. He didn't have to look to know that the child was irritated. He was always irritated. I hope you bring good news for me, Shigaraki Tamura? Tamura tried to contain his anger. He didn't want to throw a tantrum in front of his sensei. We managed to hurt the heroes, but All Might sent the Nomu flying through roofs so we can't retrieve it. A pity. But we had All Might at our mercy for a moment. And we announced our purpose at the right moment. That sounded like a melody to All for One's imaginary ears. But it would have been better if there wasn't that brat. Interesting. Someone managed to challenge Tamura? Was it a hero hopeful? Was it All Might's successor? Deku. He was there. He broke my finger, stopping me from hurting that hero. If he wasn't there, our impact could have been better. Sensei, he disturbed our plan. What? Why was he there? Tamura scratched his neck, analyzing. Those hero wannabes. That explained it. Still, All for One thought that the attack was successful enough. If Izuku was there, then good. By experiencing a villain attack firsthand, he would soon to realize that this method is needed too. It is the villain's way. Don't mind it too much, Shigaraki Tamura. You are my successor. Use this experience to move forward, for you still have much to learn. As he was left alone once again in his room, All for One laughed. He had made his move, and Shigaraki Tamura's piece had been placed. Now, if his other child would play along with him, then their move would be a perfectly organized chaos in this society's game of board. The rest of his afternoon was undisturbed, but All for One would be lying if his mind was at peace. No, his mind was excited for what awaited him in a few hours. And as night came to cover the day, a call came ringing on his specialized phone. All for One smiled in glee. It was exactly 10 p.m. and Kurojire's portal appeared in his bedroom. A long night awaited him, but he was prepared for it. He signed up for this. A step through the portal, and he was already in Sensei's usual room. The man was sitting in front of a desk, with a set of chess opened on it. It was an open challenge for a game. Do you play chess, Izuku? Izuku smiled genuinely. I don't, Sensei. I know how to play it, but I never really practice with it. He sat on the sofa prepared for him, and he watched Sensei turn the chess so that Izuku got the white piece. Is it time for our usual lesson? I miss this. All for One laughed. You do know how to make an old man feel appreciated. Go on then, make your move. Make my move. I am happy about how the attack turned out. Shigaraki-san does have a big potential for strategizing. He moved his pawn. Yes. But let's take your effort to account. Sensei brought forward his knight. It was thanks to you that he chose this strategy after all. They both played 2 more moves. Even Izuku knew that the first steps are always to set up a strategy. Since he got the white piece, he planned to defend his center and opened routes for flexible attacks. His plan was a bit obvious, but he did say he didn't play chess, right? Sensei's move was evenly spread out in the side. He needed to be prepared for long-range attacks. Without you though, he wouldn't be able to execute it. He took his bishop across the board, to the far right, setting a trap for his upcoming attacks. Sensei, what's a Nomu? Oh. Sensei moved his knight from the other side. It was once a human, but you need not to worry. They can't be saved. Humans. They had been humans. Izuku wanted to cry. He continued the game, though, setting all his traps. But Sensei probably read them like a newspaper in the morning. If he could read. He had no eyes. Damn it. His loss would be more embarrassing. Of course Izuku knew Sensei would gather as many minions as possible to conquer this society, and Izuku knew the plan even though he didn't realize that it would happen so soon. But to use humans as bioengineered weapons, definitely without their consent, was something Izuku didn't ever think of. The Nomu probably had been in process long before Izuku joined in his cause, but to use them now, when they didn't want to advertise violence and killing. The Nomu's whole existence was about killing another human. Izuku took Sensei's knight that had little defense. A pity move, probably. God, this game was just for distracting him from the bitter truth, wasn't it? I sometimes worried about you, Izuku. You try too hard to bring water and oil together. All for One made his move. It was cute how the boy was trying so hard to win this. He decides to push again. Are you mad? Izuku let out a restrained breath. Oh. I was mad at some point at USJ, but it wasn't at you. He put on the last trap. Was it Tamura, then? Izuku watched as Sensei put a pawn between his defense. He responded him with something Sensei might have liked. No, it was All Might. All for one grinned. My, what did the symbol of peace do to make the angel of society mad? He didn't listen. He was at his limit, but he refused to work together. The game continued to be some kind of hide and seek. Showed a little sign of an attack, the players moved to defend or retreat. But back to the oil and water thing you said, I think it isn't too difficult to bring them together. The boy returned his knight, defending the bishop that was threatened by All for One's bishop from afar. Sensei made a move went wasted. Is it? Izuku took another of Sensei's pawn. Yes. To bring oil and water together, we just have to continuously mix it. While they won't blend, they will move in harmony. Izuku set another trap. Sensei's defense now was asymmetrical, reminding Izuku of long-ranged attacks that could happen anytime. Still, Izuku's defense was better. But why was his defense better? Izuku knew Sensei was luring him, but why did Sensei let him go every time he attacked and his traps worked? What was Sensei's true plan? Izuku chose to continue his words. Mixing it wouldn't be a waste of time if we continue to do it. It's like peace. Someone said peace is a responsibility. Therefore it is more like a commitment than an achievement. All for One was amused by the boy's words. Big words for a 14 years old. He probably took it from a movie. How about All Might? Izuku paused his game's rhythm. Slowly, he exhaled and moved his queen. Let's go all out. All Might commits to peace like it is a responsibility. But the way he presented it makes society thinks that it's an achievement. That's why the society lacked in sense of responsibility. All for One hummed that. While the man was a buffoon, he did have a determination to save everyone. He was ready to sacrifice his life. That was why he managed to injure him this bad, after all. Izuku scrunched his eyebrows at the game. Was chess really this easy? He thought Sensei would be good at playing it? How could he take Sensei's piece here and there? But he finally said, All Might didn't mix. He wrecked just one side, making the view from the one side magnificent and the other side blurred in pain. All for One smirked. Still, he is just one force. There are many force like All Might, and they only happen because of the system. He brought forward his rook, straight to Sensei's knight. Sensei's bishop was there to take his rook if Sensei wish it, but he need to accept his bishop would be taken out too with his queen if he do that. The boy looked stuck, so All for One decided to help him. The boy wasn't used to the game after all. To make a real change, All for One moved his bishop, taking his rock. You must sacrifice something. You took something from one side, then it would just topple each other. To have balance again, we either need to replace it, or take something from the other. Izuku took Sensei's bishop. You wouldn't want someone to replace All Might, would you? There will always be someone who replace All Might. Do you mean a copycat? I met one in my hero ethic class, but he wasn't as unreasonable as All Might. And I don't think someone could be as iconic as All Might. All for One refrained from choking anyone right there and then. He forgot that the boy was still an All Might's fans. No, I mean someone who have All Might's quirk? Izuku raised an eyebrow at that, pushing him to continue. All Might's quirk is unique. I made it. What dash? It couldn't be. All Might, he got his quirk from All for One? All for One continued. The short story is I gave my idiotic brother, a hero comic nerd, a quirk to enhance his health and body. The quirk can be passed on. And now, All Might is the eighth wielder. A quirk that could be passed on. Of course. He was your brother after all. He could transfer quirk. Izuku exclaimed. All for One was silent for a while, reminiscing his brother's memory. Yes, and he started a line of heroes to defeat me. My brother's dead, but his idiocy still lives. Younger brother is a cosmic mystery. Now, Izuku could read a bit of Sensei's gesture, no matter how much he tried to hide it. And from Sensei's gesture, he knew. You must have really loved him. All for One smugly smiled, remembering good times. Too much. I put him in a vault. Izuku froze, and all for one just realized that the boy didn't share his humor in this matter. It was a time of war. He explained, and the boy was relaxed once again. Seriously, if everyone knew how foolish Yuto was, they would have helped him keep Yuto in the vault. Of course. My mother probably would have done the same to me if there was a war. I want to meet your mother. Izuku choked. All for one smugly grinned, satisfied that he made that reaction out of Izuku. He heard a whisper saying, "Please don't," but really he was just playing with the boy. The boy finally gathered himself after a moment of reflecting all the bad choices he made. He narrowed his eyes. "You're distracting me." Besides, it wasn't All Might's quirk that made him dangerous. It's the image he built. Yes, it's only possible because of his quirk, but we just need his successor not to continue his image. We have me in the hero side now, so we can convince him and simultaneously society to stop that way of thinking. So we can go to the other option. A piece for an equal piece on the other side. He stopped when it was his turn. Izuku realized it now, Sensei was just distracting him. His attacks could be easily dismantled because he let it. His plan was... Sensei leaned his face on his right hand. "Do you see it my way now?" He had to focus to put traps for a checkmate. But Sensei's side was empty enough for the king to maneuver freely, deflecting all of his attacks. And he couldn't move around too closely to the king since the rest of Sensei's pawns were placed perfectly. "Must it really that way?" he asked instead. His efforts were all pointless. It was too late to trap the king now. All for one stated it. "You do know you're fighting a losing battle, right?" Izuku sighed in acceptance. So that was Sensei's plan. Admittedly, it wasn't a win. But nor was it a lose. It was probably for the best. Yes, but you didn't have to win to not lose. It was a stalemate. All for one smile with satisfaction. They had come to an agreement. He also agreed to Izuku's demand, only because he had expected it, of course. In fact, he had expected and embraced it since the society made the term villain. It was his only wrong move for an indisputable win. "Do you understand your lesson today, Izuku?" Izuku of course understood it. From the beginning, every attack Sensei threw were just there to distract and staged the last move. Sensei's goal was never for a win. It was their game against the heroes now, so he must accept it. Despite that, Izuku chose to beam. "Yeah, I'm bad at chess." All for one couldn't help but grinned and put his big hand on the boy's small head, ruffling the hair bit. "Now, don't encourage that negativity, Izuku. You planned for 4 to 5 steps ahead. It's pretty good, since you don't practice chess much." Izuku dropped his act and smiled with sorrow. "Yeah, I still got much to learn." Aizawa Shoyuta opened his eyes and found himself in a white room. Hospital. He sighed. They had been attacked, he remembered it now. The villains were coming through a dark fog that turned out to be a warper. They brought many villains, and he fought them in the central plaza of USJ, to protect. Protect? Realization came upon him. The villains, they didn't attack Midoriya Izuku. No, Midoriya Izuku even talked to them, discussing something about what the villain wanted. Aizawa's heartbeat became faster and soon, the tool in his bed beeped. A nurse came and he stated that he would only let them examine him if they call his colleague immediately. His mind left unrest until 3 people walked through the door of his room. "I'm glad to see you awake, Aizawa-sensei." The mouse bear was as tidy as always, but his fur said otherwise. He had been thinking nonstop. Aizawa hated to make him think more, but he needed to say this, especially in front of the truth detector detective. Midoriya Izuku. The villains didn't attack him. They talked about purposes and intention with him. You need to interrogate him. Both the deflected All Might and the detective side. Not Nedzu though. Nedzu beamed. In fact, the villains didn't attack any of the students. What? Most of them didn't use any quirk, and they were only there to make All Might retire. Was his head injured that badly? He thought he was hearing something illogical just a moment ago. I've never met a villain this interesting before. I'll definitely enjoy fighting their plans. Or not. That was definitely a real Nedzu. He turned to the detective. Have you questioned Midoriya Izuku? The detective nodded. I have. He was telling the truth the whole time. Him talking about purposes and intentions with the villains was probably his effort in buying some time that he mentioned during my questioning. A sudden headache came upon the detective because of what he about to say, so he massaged his temple. That topic of discussion was probably because the villains were fans of his channel. They wanted All Might to retire so society doesn't depend on heroes. Just Midoriya-kun also speculated that the media infiltration from days before was the villain's method to make a distraction and steal some information. He also speculated that there is an informant inside UA, but Tsukachi-san has cleared Midoriya-kun from the suspicion of being the said informant. Of course it was the problem child. Honestly, Aizawa was just glad that his kids were unharmed. But his suspicion from just before the trip really did come true. The problem child did stir something in the underground world. Of course they couldn't hold the child accountable for what the villains did. But now they knew that the problem child was dangerous enough to be a real-life threat. What about the villains we captured? It was All Might turn to answer. They didn't know anything about their leaders. They were there because they also agreed to make me retire, and was really glad that the leaders didn't push them to hurt the children, so if they were to be captured, their punishment wouldn't be too bad. They were just there to keep the children safe from the real fight between that weapon and me. Most of them had villainous quirk or mutant quirk that looked villainous. They couldn't find jobs, and only have some robbery records. All Might sighed. They were paid to keep the children safe, so they gladly do it. Fucking hell. How were they supposed to react to that? Midoriya Izuku was torn. He had his homework, material to learn, Shinso to train, also plans and videos to make. He wished he was an octopus. Or jelly. Jellies didn't have to do anything. He shook his head. He was walking towards 1A to walk home with Shinso, but he was stopped by a crowd that gathered in front of the class. He heard someone talking inside the crowd, and then a familiar harsh voice responded to it. Oh no. Izuku tried to cut through the crowds, and when he was finally successful, he saw Kaken throw some mean words to another blonde kid that was definitely not a part of 1A. Izuku won't have that. Stop. Keisuke, he interrupted the boy from exploding. You have to stop encouraging people to antagonize you. You don't have to defend them, Deku. A voice chimed in. They're used to compliments to go along with their big head. And now after the attack, their head got bigger. Someone needs to bring them back to the ground. Izuku turned to see the boy who spoke. A blonde boy. Izuku thought he saw them once in a table of 1B kids. Now he understood the situation completely. Why did you think taunting 1A because they were attacked by villains is okay? They didn't ask to be attacked. They didn't ask the attention they got. It could be traumatizing from all we know. If they got trauma by a puny attack like that, then they don't deserve to be in the hero course. It just means they're weaker than B class. The temperature dropped for a few degrees, and everyone that saw the look on Deku's eyes could feel it. They could only freeze. What is this fear? Deku took a step towards the blonde boy. He wasn't even taller than the other boy, but why did the boy feel like Deku was towering him? So, you mean people with traumas can't be heroes? Do you enjoy watching people weaker than you give up on their dreams, Hiro-san? His words cut the silence, and one simply dared not to answer. Deku continued. If you do, then you're no hero. It goes with everyone here. He looked straight to the crowd. Strong is not to be fawned over. Weak is not to be stepped over. You become hero by making people feel safe. No one feels safe by your taunts and your intruding questions. A pin drop could have been heard in the 2 seconds of pure silence before Deku speak again. Well, that's that. But I can't really blame you for your curiosity in the hero course, student. He pointed to the blonde boy. You're from the hero course, right? You surely have an opinion. Why don't we talk about it for some time? I think I got a video idea from it. He excitedly told him, and followed by a scrunched on his eyebrows to the crowds. Oh, that's right. Let's do our best in the sport festival, guys. Oh, Ogawa-san, thank you again for the Japanese literature note. You're a lifesaver. Bye, everyone. A few smiles could be seen, and some returned his greeting before the crowds cleared from the doorway. Izuku turned back to the blonde boy. Here, it's my number. I think you can be a guest star in my next video. What's your name again? What? After processing the situation, the boy let out a weird laugh. Of course. I'm Minoma. I'll be the perfect guest star for your video. Well then, good luck on the sport festival. You should train real hard. It will really help me if people know you and then you appear in my video. Izuku beamed. Of course. I'll help you, Deku. You've got good eyes. I already planned a training today. In fact, I'll dash a few nonsense were heard, and then the boy was gone. Whoa! The pink skin girl exclaimed and Izuku moved to face her. We got Deku's here in the first seat. A boy lightning mark hair pushed himself to Izuku's line of sight. Yeah, that's so cool. Did the words just come rolling off from your head or did you have it prepared somewhere? Manly tears? Izuku laughed at that. Still, I said that, but you have to be strong enough to save a lot of people. Good luck everyone. Show them you're here. Come on. Shinso nodded and they both went out of the door. Oh, Kirishima-kun. I'll upload it tonight. Make sure to watch it. Yeah. Deku's here uploaded another video 2 weeks after the last upload. It was titled The Forbidden Issue and had something different from the other video. It had another person in the thumbnail, red head contrasting with green one. Hey, Deku's here. And we have zero tolerance for bullying act policy in our rulebooks. I'm pretty sure I got bullied here. A hand doll from White Sock with the word teacher written on it appeared right in front of the camera, with a high, annoying voice. Shut up. We encourage every viewers and any aspiring heroes out there to treat everyone equally. I don't know, man. Some people keep throwing harsh words at me. Shut up. We got zero case on bullying acts. Maybe if you listen to me. Shut up. The screen blipped. Hey everyone, it's Deku. And Kirishima? Yeah. Hey Kirishima. Why don't you introduce yourself? I don't know what else to say. Usually, when people tell you to introduce yourself, they expected your name and your quirk. But I don't think Deku's here will care so much about my quirk. I won't indeed. While your quirk will certainly be interesting me, so is any other quirks. So, maybe start from where you go to school. Right? I'm studying in your hero course. Kirishima here is part of the class who got attacked last Friday. Sorry again, man. My timing can't be any worse. Don't worry. The attack is scary and all, but we've planned this since Monday. I am not one to back down on my words. So manly. Totally. As you see, this video is pretty different from my other videos, because I have this manly guy as a guest. We'll be discussing about bullying issue in many forms of education, so I must have a partner to discuss it. Kirishima here had a very important role in the bullying acts in his former school. Kirishima, would you please announce your role? My role is nothing. I did nothing. Seriously, man, I froze every time some kids said mean things to other people. Like, I don't know what to do. That's okay, Kirishima. Everyone is like that. In fact, it's the second most important role in this issue. Really? Yeah. Really encouraging the bullying to continue, I'm sure. Man, I'm suck. Now, don't you call yourself that, Kirishima? That's why you're in the hero course, right? Just tell them what you told me before. Okay? Well, I was this meek kid who's scared on almost everything. I've got friends, since my quirk is pretty strong. But I never had the courage to save others. I don't feel strong enough to do so. I kept thinking, what if that bullies just change their target to me? Am I strong enough to defend them or myself? Sometimes I also asked, what if I made it worse for the victim? I ended up hesitate to do the right thing. That's why I'm in the hero course. I don't want to hesitate to do the right thing. I'll defeat my fear and be a chivalrous hero like Crimson Riot. A totally cool hero in his time. Perfectly great hero to take example of. Well, here's my addition in this issue. You don't have to wait to get into the hero course to learn about it. You see, while flight or fight is our basic reaction to fear, it's actually freezing that's the first body response on fear. It is because the jump of adrenaline in our blood. So freezing is very normal. But you could easily counter it with this thought, what would a proper human do? Not what a hero would do, since heroes basically beat villains every day and children's perception of villains are shaped by. Now I'm off topic. Moving on. After you think about it, you must take long breaths. It will even your heart rate and clear your mind. And then you act. Oh, I'll try it. Thanks for the advice, Deku. How about you though, what's your role in this issue? I was the victim in a long time. Whoa, really? But you're so strong. Your heart, I'll beat you in the sport festival. Deku laughed. Well, I wasn't always this strong. You see, when I was in kindergarten, I always defended the other kids from bullies. But when I turned out to be quirkless, everyone turned against me. And, even my childhood friend turned to bully me. It lasted until my final year of middle school. I used to have my things stolen, got beat up, got told every day that I'm useless and my dreams are trash, got tripped on the hallways, got poured by milk or juice, had to sit it out in sport games, accused for cheating, accused for violence, and got suicide baited. You what? A voice from behind camera said, whispering, Shinso, you're not supposed to talk. That's rough, buddy. Totally unmanly of them. Yeah, well, years of being called useless really made me think that I'm useless. So I became this meek, quirkless boy who couldn't stand up for himself. The suicide bait made me snap though. It angered me that they didn't think I have a future and I really wanted to survive to prove them wrong. I've got my mother full support to do it. Then, I found out that 40% of the quirkless didn't survive adolescence due to suicide. I realized then that sometimes people need to have a little push from others so that they can help themselves. That's why I started this QTube channel. And Kirishima, I think the you right now, with your warm smile and kind encouragement, has already saved someone. Sometimes people just need those. Bro. So manly. Deku laughed. And next, the most important role in bullying issue. The bullies. At the same time, the teachers. Wait, what? The teachers? I thought it would be the bully? Nope. Many people think the problems are the bully, but children are a fickle thing. They learn from their environment. Kirishima, if you answer wrong in a test, but got 100% mark, what would you think? I'll thank God, then ask how in the world I got a 100 mark? Then, I'll assume I did everything right and will answer it wrong again in the next test. Yes, it's a simple behavior learning theory that with encouragement and without proper consequences, the behavior will stay and increases. Noticed how I got accused of violence and cheating? The teacher had a big role in it. When I got a beating once, and someone bruised their knuckles, they reported me for violence. What? I know. It's unbelievable. It all became clear though. There is no need to dirty an aspiring hero student's record with bullying if they have a quirkless kid with no futures record to fill with violence and taunting others. The beating didn't stop until my final year. And it only stopped because of me, not the teacher. One of the suicide baits happened in front of the teacher. The teacher just looked away uncomfortably though. Maybe they drew moral line on suicide baits. Still didn't act though. Are they going to be in trouble because of this video? They're already in trouble. My mom already sued them. Thank God. Shinso, be quiet. Teacher played a large part in children's life. When I got burn marks from another kid's quirk, or I got bruised from falling after lifted up by another's quirk, the teacher blamed me, saying I'm too weak to play with others. I saw some of my classmates couldn't play the heroes because the others wouldn't allow them since they'd got villainous quirk, and the teacher went along with it. I saw my dear friend being told so much they would be the strongest hero because they have the best quirk, that they developed this severe inferiority complex, and turned to bully others since they needed to feel the strongest. Since they were expected to be the strongest. The teacher never reprimanded them, so they thought it was okay. In fact, the teacher cleaned their record so that this student from their no-name school could rise their school name. Hero alumnus, guys. They'll fight nail and tooth for it. That's messed up. Yeah. It's reality nowadays, I guess. But there's still hope, right? Everyone needs a Kirishima in their life. Shinso, be quiet. Yeah. Of course there is. In fact, recently, the reported bully cases are increasing. And that's good news because it's always better to be able to see the problem. No fake clean history, people are reporting the bullying. Now teacher can't just look away and ignore it. It is a job well done by the next generation of society. I'm so proud of you guys. Yeah. Keep up the good work. What's the tips again? Right? What would a proper human do take long breaths, and act. So simple. Yeah. And teachers, if words get to me that you're ignoring the problem in front of you, you'll be facing me. That's a promise. The sock appeared, crap. Forbidden issue. 6M viewers. Description. Deku's here with guest. I'm trying a new method so that you don't cry while watching my video. My goal now is to make you laugh and then cry on the inside before you go to bed. Shout out to my buddies Kirishima Ijiro and Shinso Hitoshi. You can find them at Sinsimesasleepy and at Red Riot. Awesome 03 Let Shinso talk. Washi's Deku's bullies are so doomed LMAO. Rabbit he's smart. We can only take sap videos from time to time. Brownie oh my god, they just met at UA for a week but their friendship already so precious? And they don't even go to the same class. Deku I need a Kirishima. Oh Snake, yes, Deku finally talked about this. A Kid's Can Hope was so sad I knew his problems were this deep. Wings Boogle top research. Where to buy a Kirishima? Mayum 1 GT, can we know who his bullies are? Best denim forget Kirishima, I need a Shinso. Jokezum 3 Deku's so precious I can't even. Amiruis 12 guys. Do you know what this means? Some heroes are probably a bully. Edit, chill. Yeah, maybe some stopped being a bully. But by that logic, that means some hasn't stopped. I knew a couple of heroes who need disciplinary lessons. G0 Bay 0 ND, this hit too close to home. Orca humor. Just the coping mechanism we all need. Takumi, his teacher, probably didn't have jobs right now. Chain W0 OD, let Shinso talk. Nivi friend 1, my teachers were mean to me too. Midday Deku's Midoriya Izuku. He went to Aldra Middle School. The place is under strict supervision of the Ministry of Education right now. Edit. He didn't really hide his identity, you know. It's not a breach of privacy. On him 3 guys, the Shinso guy is insane. His chirpers are all cat meme with spite. IMD0G, I didn't realize the society is this messed up. Gun Feet, who's his bully, I just wanna talk. At Sinsimesleepy posted a chirp after the upload of Deku's here newest video. The chirp contained 2 memes that had a drawing of potato that said, I can be proper human and I'm 50% spite, and I can be proper human and I'm 20% coffee, with the hashtag Let Shinso Talk tag that was already trending before he posted it. Deku's here official chirper account then rechirped it, with 10% depression and 5% bad insomnia case, you're only 15% human. I'm so proud of you. See guys, you all can become proper human. And got rechirped by at Red Riot with so manly. In the middle of net chaos, Deku's here's official fan account chirped, Deku's not changing. This sides of him are unleashed because he finally made friends. The euphoria of the success video only lasted for a few days, though. Somehow, somebody leaked Katsuki Bakugo's role in Deku's bullying and everyone was talking about it. It didn't help that he was accountable for the fire in that district when the sludge incident happened, and someone connected it with the burn marks Deku got. Then people began to realize that Deku was the one who jumped to save the boy. An account called Was Just a Bystander claimed to be their old classmate and revealed that Bakugo still bullied Deku after Deku jumped to save him. The net is not a kind place.